Is ready.
The December 18th, 2025 meeting of the City Plan Board of Gainesville. Do we have a roll, please?
Yes, Robert Ackerman. Here. Jamie Bell is absent. Tina Certain is absent. Nicholas Hill.
Here.
Robert Murmer.
Here.
Joshua Ney.
Here.
Jason Sanchez.
Here.
Stephanie Sutton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Fantastic. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Can I speak to that, please?
Sure. Go ahead.
Because we have a very, very packed agenda, and it's probably going to be difficult to navigate it for a brand new chair, I was wondering if we could move the chair election to the end of the agenda.
It's fine if you want. I mean, it's up to the board. So I'm okay either way.
Floor is
What was the proposal?
Sorry, I thought, move my microphone closer, my bad. Move the chair election to the end of the agenda.
that a motion?
There would be a motion to
Yeah,
amend the agenda as presented to push back the chair election to the end of it and move everything else up, right?
yeah.
Okay. Mr. Nay.
I'm okay with that, but the chair election shouldn't go very long. So I don't feel like because we've got a lot of stuff that might be worn out by then, where we could just get it done in like 10 minutes.
Or
That's
less.
my feel.
Yeah. Mr. Addleton.
We do have a lot of stuff, and thank you all for
No, your patience and working on this. It does. I'll keep it as short as I can. We do have staff here that are notaries that are here for our quasi-judicial presentations and process. And if we could put that quasi-judicial and the swearing in that is required from notary, that will be the best for us on staff time.
If we can just do the swearing in early in the agenda is the request. We don't have to actually hear the item first, but.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so I'd like to, okay, so I'll amend my motion. I guess there's not appetite. So I'll just say then I hope that the chair election goes my way, because I was more worried about having a brand new chair just like sit there and then manage it.
I'm
But
open to whatever here.
so I'll remove that. So I move to accept the agenda as presented, but moving the any swearing in that is required by notaries to the top of the agenda, right before old business.
Okay. Do we have a second?
second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Here.
All right. Passes unanimously. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. If there are any members of the public who want to speak about an item that is not on the agenda, and I know we have a very loaded agenda today, so, but if you have something to speak about that's not on the agenda, now would be the time to come up and say your piece. I thought there was somebody too.
I thought there might be, but potentially not.
Okay. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the swearing in.
So at this time, those who are here for the Porter's rezoning item, LD 25115, since we will be conducting this item as a formal quasi judicial hearing, we would ask those that are here to speak on the item, that includes staff, to raise your right hand and repeat after Amber, basically, and she'll tell you what to say. Basically, we're going to be swearing people in that you're going to tell the truth. If you want to formally participate. If you don't want to speak on it, no worries.
Does that go for just general public that want to speak on this issue?
And then describe what it means when you say quasi-judicial.
So anyone that is going to provide expert testimony at this point should, even if they are not clear as to whether or not they're going to be recognized, should stand up and say, yes, I swear that I am going to tell the truth. And that is what Amber now is going to read for all of us. And then all of us, of course, as a community, are going to say that that is something that we agree to.
Mr. Edelton, can you clarify this? I think what people are asking is, would that extend to people that are providing public comment on this item, or is it just the people that registered as an affected party?
So it is, sorry, so in the board rules, swearing in for formal hearings applies to all affected parties and witnesses shall be collectively sworn in.
So just about everybody.
There's no reason to not swear people in.
Yeah, so I guess put another way, if you're here for the Porter's Quarters item, better safe than sorry, stand up and raise your right hands.
Yeah, generally. So essentially, and we were planning on talking about this a little bit more when the item comes up on the agenda, but with a request for to participate as an affected party, which we have received one, that allows us to conduct that item in a more formal way than we normally do.
And please, if anyone in the audience is going to speak to the item, and now looks like most people are holding their hand up, please say that I have been sworn in and that I have gone through the process when you come to speak.
When you come to speak.
Yep. And if you will, please.
If you will be providing testimony today on any public hearing items, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to provide to the City Commission is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you all. I know that's not typical and a little
there's
bit
always
awkward,
something, yeah.
but thank everyone and thanks to the group and community for doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Edelton. Okay, moving on to the first bit of old business. City Plan Board elections. Let's hear it. Ms. Sutton.
So I believe you may be eligible for another term, Mr. Sanchez.
So I've heard.
And I would like to nominate you, and coincidentally nominate Mr. Hill as well, if both of you are willing to serve another year.
Second.
I serve at the pleasure of the board, so if that's the board's will, then so be it.
No second necessary.
You guys can put it all to a vote, though, because we have one person in.
Any other nominations?
I guess we vote too, yeah. Are there any other nominations? Okay.
So sweet.
It's very sweet. Well, let's formalize it with an actual vote, please. So, all those in favor of Ms. Sutton's candidate slate of myself and Mr. Hill?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. So, thank you very much. Honored to serve as the board chair for another year. Second bit of, that was faster than 10 minutes, by the way. Yeah, that was pretty
2
quick.
minutes, I think.
Wow, okay. Just shorter than a public comment. Let's move on to the next bit of old business. Ms. McMullen, if you could read that in for us, please.
Sure. Item 2025-852, UF temporary parking special use permit. And just to introduce this item or reintroduce it, at your last meeting, you all voted to deny the request for special use permit. And the board rules outline that you should now review the written order for denial and take a vote to agree that it accurately represents what you discussed and how you decided to make your motion and decision at the last meeting. And then once you do that, the chair will need to sign the order, and then we can get that to the applicant. And we can be here for any questions.
Okay.
And so really what staff is asking for is, does what has been presented in the letter accurately reflect what you all voted on in your last meeting. It is not an agenda item really to open this back up to whether or not, the decision, really, it's not an opening for a redecision.
Right.
It's an opening for, is this accurately reflecting what you all have already decided?
Mr. Ackerman.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've reviewed the order provided by the city attorney's office, and I believe it does in fact accurately reflect the basis for our denial.
I believe that as well. I've reviewed that. I actually had conversations with city staff about it. So, do we have a motion to approve the letter as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes. I will be signing. You guys give it to me and I'll sign it. So, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's move on to the first bit of new business. Ms. McMullen, if you could read that in for us, please.
Yes, so the first item for new business, 2025-990, Porter's Quarters Land Use Change, LD 25000114. And just to preface this, there are two items on the agenda you'll see for this request. The first is a land use change. The second is the rezoning. For the exercise that we all just went through for swearing in of witnesses, that portion, that more formal portion applies to the rezoning item, which is number 2 under new business. What that essentially means is the person who's registered as the affected party will have additional time, more time than usual, to speak on the item, but that's going to be with the next item. So for this first one, and it's up to the chair, of course, but generally that's how it works. And the chair can let us know, how he wants to handle public comment for this first item. Typically, we do a 3-minute time limit, but
Right. It occurs to me that we're going to be voting on this, and then we're going to have a quasi-judicial on something that is very close
Yeah.
adjacent. Usually when we vote to approve one land use change, the rezoning happens
right.
as automatic. In this case, that strikes me as a little bit off, because we're going to have a more formal hearing after we've already voted on something that is adjacent,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it kind of always is set
It
up
seems
that way.
like we should flip the order, and we adopted the agenda, so, but like, it does seem like we should flip the order of these so that the public has more
Right.
input on this. Otherwise, it doesn't, like,
Yeah,
again,
people end up
they're
repeating a
like, we're
lot.
gonna redo the land use, but then not do the rezoning. That typically that doesn't happen, so.
Yeah, we always run into this conundrum. Go ahead, Ross.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to hear the future land use item, and just all agree to postpone any vote, and then hear the zoning item, and then,
I mean, I'm okay with it as long as that's,
is that allowed? Or can you only hear zoning after?
This board, for their decision-making body, is allowed to do what they feel is the most appropriate. Planning staff would recommend that you move from the land use first and then the zoning
But, I mean,
afterwards.
But I'm saying, yeah, hear the land use first, postpone the vote on the land use, then hear the zoning, then 2 votes if needed.
Postponing the vote would not be staff's recommendation. It would be looking at it as a land use first for what is this broader goal, and then voting on the specificity and the specifics of the zoning after that.
I've got a couple other, well, Dr. Marmia. Mr. Ackerman.
As a practical matter, we should do the land use first, because if it fails, then we will not do the zoning. So I just think that's the way it
Okay.
needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
But then, in that case, though, the affected party is commenting on, like, fait accompli.
I guess technically there are two separate, I mean, there is a world where we could approve a land use but not the rezoning.
And,
So,
and if the land use fails, the affected parties win and go home.
that's true. we can't rezone without the change in land use, so. Okay. Mr. Ackerman makes a very good point. I'm fine to keep it as is then. One other thing before we get into the presentation, we had a couple of folks I noticed came in late, which means they have not sworn in. I think it would be good to get everybody, I don't know if we have to go through that again, but like if they want to speak, we should have them sworn in as well. So, if anybody has come in who did not get sworn in but wants to talk about this item, oh, did they leave? Oh, or did our person leave?
I think that, it's not to put you on the spot, Allison, but I think that Allison can do it because she's a notary and she's already been sworn in previously. So
Okay.
you could swear new people in, I believe.
Is that a
And it
nod of
is,
approval?
the swearing in is for the affected party testimony, and largely at this point is to make sure that that is covered up front and first and foremost. It doesn't mean that it negates anyone's,
Okay.
feedback
So
or
we don't necessarily need to swear.
the board's, review and purview.
Okay. Mr. Ackerman.
I was just going to suggest that we, instead of watching people straggle in and swearing them all the time, if it's necessary, we can re-swear people when the
Okay.
quasi-judicial item comes up.
Okay, fair enough. All right, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, board chair and board members. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Allison Pager. I'm a planner in the Department of Sustainable Development, and I've been am before you today to present a project, Porter's Quarters. This is a City of Gainesville-owned parcel. The applicants representing the city project are the Gainesville Community Reinvestment Area, and we have members from their team here tonight, Director Rick Smith and Project Manager Jason Smith. This will consist of two separate applications, as explained. One is for the land use change, which is legislative, and one is for the zoning map change, which is quasi-judicial. This presentation right now is specifically for the small-scale comprehensive plan future land use amendment, identified by petition number LD 25-000114. So for this petition, it's for one parcel equaling in total approximately 0.28 acres, and for the record is identified as parcel number 12907-000-000. It's located at the corner of Southwest 5th Ave and Southwest 4th Street within the Porter's neighborhood area. The current land use category is recreation, REC, and the proposed change requested is for residential low, RL. The subject parcel is currently undeveloped and vacant, and to provide some background context to the history of the parcel, this parcel has been discussed for several years by city leadership. In 2019, it was identified as one of the projects that was part of the downtown redevelopment plan under Porter's model block housing, and then the GCRA hosted several community engagement events from 2019 to the present as part of efforts that were voted on by the City Commission in 2020 to continue strategizing and developing attainable housing opportunities in the East Gainesville area. This particular parcel has gone through several different iterations and conceptualizing efforts throughout the years since then, largely based on commission and community feedback. So the current proposal seeks to amend the land use and zoning designations to align with surrounding properties and to enable infill residential development that supports future home ownership opportunities. So the next few slides are just going to provide some context and familiarity with the area. So this is a Google imagery aerial. As you can see right here, the star is where the parcel is. And then just as a location map for reference of the broader area, this is near the Depot Avenue area near Main Street. It's a couple blocks over from the existing Porter's Community Center. And as seen, it's largely surrounded by residential property with the same land use designation that's being proposed of residential low. And here's a picture to better identify the property. So this is the corner of 4th Street and 5th Ave, and you're looking directly at the parcel. So just a summary of the petition timeline. There's been several pre-application meetings, as we would call them, over the years since it first started several years ago. The neighborhood workshop for this was held in May by the GCRA. Sustainable development staff also attended to present about the land use and zoning process as a whole. So myself and Director Edelton were there. Then I went through review, and now we're before you today for the City Plan Board as an advisory board to the commission. And based on how tonight goes, it will then go on to the City Commission at future meetings. These slides on here are taken directly from the neighborhood workshop presentation that GCRA did. Just a couple slides that show engagement efforts that they have done over the years. And then just getting into some public notice items for this. The neighborhood workshop public notice is shown on the screen, including property signage, mailers, the 400-foot radius, and the property sign affidavit. And then for the City Plan Board, these were the public notice items that were done: postcards, the newspaper ad, and property signage. Okay, so this petition was reviewed using the criteria outlined in section 30-3.13 of the Land Development Code and the corresponding sections of the comprehensive plan for the city. The criteria shown on these slides are explored in more detail in the backup and the staff report, so I'm just going to emphasize a couple of the key points. So just as a reminder, the proposal is to change the existing REC recreation land use to RL residential low. So the map on the screen shows what that proposed would look like, which would correspond with the surrounding existing land use. In terms of compatibility, the surrounding area has similar land use along with zoning designations, which we would see in the next presentation. With direction to our department to identify the most compatible zoning and land use for this property and its intended use, RL is found to be the most compatible for the area. And then I just want to jump ahead a second to show this slide. This is a direct comparison of the two land uses that we're talking about. This is taken from the future land use element of the comprehensive plan, policy 4.1.1, that identifies the different land use categories. So the existing is recreation. There's not a whole lot in that section for recreation, so that is the whole bit right there. For residential low, those are some key points from what defines residential low. Something to point out here that I added at the bottom is where it talks about in our land development code the corresponding future land use categories, just because this tends to come up. So with the next presentation, which will be about zoning, just to keep in mind that what will be proposed is RMF5. So this is just to keep in mind what is compatible with RL, to show that RMF5 is allowed, and then the current recreation does not allow any of the typical zoning districts, but it does allow for the special districts, plan development, conservation, and public services and operations. So with that being said, in terms of impact and infill on the property, the applicant, GCRA, on behalf of the city is proposing potential residential infill in the future. And just to be clear, that is not approved with this petition. We just put it out there for consideration. That would then go through separate permitting processes if that idea went through in the future. But to get to that point, they have to start with the land use change, ideally because recreation and the associated zoning designation do not allow for that residential use. So that is a key part of that. And the last point on here, I wanted to include something about the environmental impacts as they have come up during the process. The subject property has no environmental features of concern, no wetlands, surface waters, or floodplains. It's not within a strategic ecosystem, and there's no known natural or archaeological features. But through community engagement and feedback that I've received, concerns were voiced about a nearby dry cleaning business that is within the area. So during the interdepartmental staff review, environmental staff reviewed and found no impacts from the operations of that business environmentally to the parcel, as that was a major concern. And our environmental reviewer, Jenny Ford, is in attendance tonight. So if there's any questions about that, we'd be happy to help address how that came up in the review. This right here is just to show a broader view of the existing future land uses. So largely surrounding the parcel, which is seen as that little red square right there, the little green dot. So that is the subject parcel. It's surrounded by that residential low. And then further out is where you get into the more diverse land uses that we see as you move into other areas. So based on the review of this criteria, staff recommends approval of the petition LD 25-000114 for the land use change request for the subject parcel. And along with that, available for questions and discussion. And as a reminder, GCRA staff members, Director Rick Smith and Project Manager Jason Smith are also in attendance to help with those questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation. My first question, really my only question for now, is how did this current future land use come to be? Was that before it was decided that this is the model block housing location?
That's a good question. We did some research on that because of the associated PS zoning, which we'll go in depth later on, but we looked back through the records to see when it was established. It wasn't quite clear. We used a couple zoning atlases to try to see if that could show us. I know for sure it was on the property prior or after 2008, and I think before then I just couldn't find an atlas to confirm that. So it's been there for well over a decade at least. There's no other really like ordinances or documentation about why it was put on the property, when exactly it was put on the property, but it is recreation right now.
So there's no records, or at least city records, that state this was intended to be a parkland or something like that, or open space in perpetuity or anything like that we can find?
Yes, not that I was able to find through my research. Spent a
Okay.
couple hours going through clerk records and trying to look for any ordinances that might be tied to the parcel. I think it was just done at such a time that it might have gotten lost over the years, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Murmur.
Mr. Chair, two questions. Do we know if the property changed hands since it was zoned to rec, or not zoned, sorry, designated as recreation for future land use?
Not off the top of my head. We could pull up the property appraiser card and look at the ownership history. I just don't have that on me at the moment.
Yeah. Because I guess what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to understand if the current owner knew what they were buying, or.
I'll ask if Director Smith might know a little bit more about that for you. Thank you.
Good evening, Rick Smith, Director GCRA. Unfortunately, I can't elaborate on that. My colleague Jason Smith and I were fairly new to the city, starting in March and May respectively of 2023. The city has directed us, city administration, to pursue zoning on this parcel. The model block housing program has been part of the GCRA 10-year investment plan since adoption in 2019. We have had extensive outreach over the years, specifically since 2022, on putting residential here. So it's been well known the intent was going to be single-family housing. We do feel that the zoning designation is correct and the land use designation is correct, fitting the broader neighborhood, which is dense single-family. I will be happy to answer any other questions you might have, but unfortunately not that specific one.
Yeah, so my second question was, you mentioned that concerns were brought up during community outreach about a nearby dry cleaning facility. Were there any other concerns brought up about the future land use designation change at these meetings?
Thank you. The question is like other concerns just about the land use designation?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of our neighbors. They've come in, we've had a lot of great conversations about this, and being at the neighborhood workshop was able to hear a lot of those concerns as well. I have documented a lot of those just to keep record and try to be able to provide answers as best we can. So some of the concerns, definitely heard about the dry cleaning business, not only for the environmental concerns, but also how it's existing as a use, which we did research on that, and it's legally non-conforming, which is how it's in that RMF5 zoning, as are a couple other uses you'll find in that area. So that was brought up. Largely concerns that were voiced had to do with other proposed ideas that neighbors have, that how the property could be utilized in a better way. So the discussions that we tried to have was looking at current land use, proposed land use, the ideas that they have, how do they fit into that? So if their idea was a park, if their idea was housing, does the current allow for that, or would it have to change? So we discussed that some, and then I'm just gonna look real quick, sorry. Yeah, I think that was largely the concerns, and just so you know, the ideas brought up like mixed use, type of some commercial use, but then using multi-floors for residential uses, tiny homes, parks, open space. Those were kind of the ideas that were thrown out.
What was like the most prevalent idea?
That is kind of hard for me to say. I feel like I've heard all of those the same amount, if I'm being honest. I would say that I think as we got closer to today's date, I think there's been more consensus about residential in some way, which the current existing property, looking at land use and looking at zoning, the residential use is not permitted with the current.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm curious about, so this, I guess this kind of builds off Mr. Hill's question about the property, but it's kind of a weird little orphan there as recreation. Was any of the land around it previously zoned a similar designation? Or has it always been just this sort of one plot? It's not a very large lot there, you know, it's not something you would think of as like a large park or something, so I'm kind of curious if there had been an original intention for more and it's just sort of been whittled away over the years.
Yeah, could I use the overhead, please?
Looks like you got it.
Okay, so this is an atlas from 2008. I had to do a photocopy. I know it's a little hard to see, sorry. So the red circle is the property, this property. Surrounding it, now this is the zoning atlas, so it's showing the zoning designations, but a lot of the land use is compatible with that. So from 2008 at least, the surrounding property was the same existing RMF5, and I would assume the RL.
Okay. Thank you.
I might be able to help provide some first context there.
Sure thing, Mr. Edelson. Go.
Thank you. I don't know which button to even push anymore. Anyway, so yes, for our Ms. Pager and the planning staff have really put before you what the planning staff knows to date.
Okay.
For the sort of context to all of this, you know, of course, there's the context of the Porter's neighborhood community. There is the context of what is there on the ground today. And then there is also the context of that these are properties and land that are owned by the city of Gainesville and fit into the city of Gainesville's plans for a variety of plans, Porter's community, housing, downtown plan, etc. So for this one, what the planning staff are presenting is that the land use and zoning, as far as what has been presented to the planning staff to review whether or not does this proposal meet our land use and zoning criteria for what the planning staff are reviewing, yes, it does. And that's what we're presenting here today. There has absolutely been a lot of conversation both at the CRA, both at our community meetings, neighborhood workshops, both at the city management and leadership levels, and at community neighborhood workshop levels. So all of that to be said, all of that our planning staff have incorporated, we work with, we analyze, and today for what our planner Pager has been presenting to you is that this is our recommendation, that moving forward for the land use change and zoning change meets those, a variety of the planning asks and plans that are in place for the ask for the planning staff to review and analyze whether or not it meets the city's goals.
Right. I was just curious about the content. I mean, it's, I find it hard to talk about Porter's, and I think maybe a lot of people in Porter's would agree, it's hard to talk about the neighborhood without some broader historical context. It is a very historic neighborhood. So it was really me just asking out of curiosity the context around that particular parcel, because it is like an island there in the sea of everything else, you know? So, but thank you for that clarification. Dr. Murmur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I just want to clarify that, the context of this community, Porter's community, is why I asked the question about, what was the most prevalent suggestion for what should be done with the site within that community. And it's because this is one of the Porter's Quarters Community Group has done a tremendous job. In fact, the most successful neighborhood grassroots advocacy organization that I'm aware of. They've been very successful at fighting to improve Porter's Quarters while minimizing displacement. So I just want to urge this board to keep that in mind. I believe that consensus can be found, and I'm not sure that consensus exists yet. And it would be a shame if we did anything to Porter's Quarters, or recommended that the City Commission do anything to Porter's Quarters that smells anything like Pleasant Street.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little concerned there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Murmur. Any other members of the board with questions? If not, we'll open it up to public comment. Members of the public have 3 minutes to speak on this agenda item. Anybody who wants to come and speak about the land use change, you're more than welcome to. I mean, the affected party can still speak for 3 minutes on this one.
Sure.
But yeah, you'll get more time on the second item, but yeah. Okay.
So I imagine you'll hear a more detailed version of this.
If you could just introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, my name is Michael Crandall. I'm a resident of Porter's Quarters and a member of the Porter's Quarters Community Connection. So I'm speaking in opposition to this land use change and the zoning change. There is a long history of public engagements with GCRA and the city about this lot. And we certainly do not have a consensus, I feel. In many ways, this has been kind of a bait and switch for us. In the beginning, the idea that we had for this piece of land was as mixed use, some maybe some small commercial space, some small tiny houses. That plan went so far as to have a big professional drawing done by some sort of outside consultant. And then next thing we know, that plan has disappeared. We have never been given a satisfactory explanation as to what happened with that plan. The only thing we were told was there was turnover in GCRA, and so it seems that that plan has disappeared. So we, at the meeting in May that the Department of Environmental Protection attended, I think that was pretty clear that as a community we wanted to halt this process of the land use change and the zoning change until we had a better concept of what we wanted going forward. We were told at that meeting by Mr. Edelton that he hears us and that if that's what we want, then we'll put the brakes on it. In the actual report, the application from GCRA for this land use change, in the appendix, they have a list of content from concerns and issues raised and what they plan to do about it. In item 2C of that appendix C3, for the desire for more time before the land use change, this is what GCRA has in their report. The city committed to not moving forward with the rezoning process until returning to the community with a revised plan that reflects community input. They explicitly stated the process would be paused. Nobody ever came back to us with a revised plan that reflects our community input. So that never happened. And then, so in May, we walked away from that meeting with the understanding that, okay, we have some breathing time. We can come up with some better plans, work together. But next thing we know, nope, sorry, it's going to happen. We're going forward with the land use change and the zoning change. So I think that I and a lot of my neighbors feel a little bit like this is, it may be called a community engagement. We may be told that we want community input, but it doesn't seem like our input is really being valued. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McMullen, if you can make sure we just, yeah, thank you. That was fine. That was within the allotted time, I'm pretty sure, and it was a helpful bit of context, but just for future. Thanks.
Sorry, we didn't hear what that was.
We normally have a 3-minute timer for public comment, and we forgot to turn it on.
Oh, sorry.
And no, don't be sorry. It's totally not on you. That's just on us. But thank
It's
you
just
for your
reminding me to hit the button for the timer, sorry.
Good afternoon. And I want to say thank you for being able to listen to us. That's really important to me and to my community because we go to a lot of meetings and we can tell when people are not really tuning in to us. And it's so important to have that kind of communication if we're going to make a decision that's progressive for everybody. So thank you for being, for allowing us to speak and being able to listen to us. And just what Crandall,
Sorry, can we have the overhead instead of that slide, please?
yeah, that's not ours. We made a map. It's called Grandma's Park. And I'm really happy we had one of our friends came over, looked at the land, and we pointed out certain things because sometimes we're inside, and my position is that I'm always about green space. And one of the reasons I'm advocating for green space is because the parking lot that will be on 4th Street is going to bring in more pollution. It's going to be a parking lot. It's going to bring in more pollution, more traffic, more noise, all of that is happening in the same neighborhood. So that's why I am advocating for open space. The woman that lives next door to this spot was promised when she bought her house that they would not build another house on this lot. And so I was a little surprised when GCRA came and told us that they would build 3 houses here. And then it went from 2, and then it went to 1. And so we had our own meetings and communications, and we decided, or at least this is my position because there may be some other folks who disagree with it, and that's okay too. But my position was that we needed to have something to bring together the youth as well as the elderly people who live over in Porter's Quarters. This lot used to have shotgun houses back in the day, and I was hoping Pastor Fox would be here to talk about the shotgun houses. Historic site as far as we're concerned. And so we wanted to combine the young people with the elderly folks to bring that together, intergenerational, over in Porter's. Everybody needs to know our history, even though it's barred in the public schools and in the legislators. So we're trying to do, we also have another forum, it's called Black History Freedom School, Porter's Quarters, Black History Freedom School. And we do that we will start in February talking about the Black history. And part of that Black history could be held right here. See that little screen there where it says community theater? I was thinking that we could have the city commissions, the county commissions, the planning board, any other board come out and talk to the community instead of us having to always come up to y'all. Come into the community and really listen to what we're talking about. And I don't know if there's a law that prevents you from doing that, but that's what I was thinking when I came up with that community theater. You see the people on the side? We could also show movies right there. Not just black movies, any movie that people want to see could be shown right here. It doesn't require a lot of parking because most of the activities would be for the people who live close to this project. So I thought it would be a great idea, the fence over here. We would have, this is where the elderly folks would be, see that, the fence? So that would be for the old folks who would produce vegetables, conversation, and whatever else is happening. In the middle, we would have, back in the day, we had jacks. I don't know what it's called today, but in double dutch. The other side where you see the chess, checkers, dominoes, bridge, the only thing we forgot was to put books up first in front of the chess, because we're trying to promote literacy, because we're having a hard time in this city, and the school board definitely needs a lot of help. And so whatever we can grab where we're teaching people how to read, because the literacy rate is so high in Gainesville. So any little thing that we can use, when we're having books and having literacy, that would help as well. So, and people, the chess part, I don't know if y'all are aware that there's a black man, he was just hired as the National Chess, the National Chess Association, black man who lives right here in Gainesville, Florida. He won many awards. He's not a president. He called me yesterday because he's been out of town, and I had wanted to invite him to come to our meeting. He couldn't make it today, but we'll be meeting on Monday to talk with him about having a chess club right here in Gainesville, published hopefully by the city, because we need chess not only over in Porter's Quarters, but everywhere, because it helps with your thinking. So that's one suggestion coming from Grandma's Park. And it was a park back in the day, as well as the shotgun houses. We had all of that. And I know that because I talked to my mom. Yes, she's still alive. I talked to other folks in my community, and they say, yeah, we used to sit down, we used to talk and blah, 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 blah. So, I'm hoping and praying that we'll be able to get back to that point instead of being stuck up in the house all the time. And I know it's cold right now, and during the summertime it's going to be really hot because I'm into climate change. But we could do something much better than what we're doing right now. So thank you for allowing me to say a few words, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is for the affected party stuff. We don't need these slides right now. I'm Kay Stouffer. I am the affected party for the rezoning issue. I want to reiterate what my neighbors have said, that we feel really that this process has been, I think Mike said it best, a bait and switch. We've repeatedly asked for information on the budget so that we could come up with other plans. We have not been told what the remaining budget is. As it was said, we started this process in 2019. You can imagine the money that's been spent on previous plans that we have that have been lost. I'm kind of, as someone who lives right next to it, green space would be great. Housing, some mix of housing and multi-use would be great. I want to see the community come together, but I feel like we keep getting pushed aside in this process. And, it's really not in good faith. And so I appreciate some of the comments from the board members who have said, hey, this is not just any other, development, any other community. I've been there since 2016, and I can attest to the fact that it is an amazingly welcoming and amazingly tight-knit community. And we don't need any more, parking and just other random houses there. Yes, my house is a single-family house. The one next to it, all the ones next to it are single-family homes. I think we could do much more creative stuff with it, as we're alluding to, but we keep getting, yanked around. So please, we are not saying that it has to stay recreation necessarily, but please let us think about something and pause and stop wasting time with these board meetings when we're not ready. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Monique Fleming, and I did get a postcard saying I was an affected party. I wasn't aware that I was, but I got a postcard, so I'm assuming that I am. I'm going to just second everything that you've heard from our Porter's Quarters residents. As you see, like Mike said, we don't have a consensus on what we want, but we have great ideas that are not necessarily what you all are, or the city is planning to do, which is basically, over time, to just create a space where it's just going to be one house. We know we have a housing issue in Gainesville. We're very aware of that. We see it happening in our own neighborhood because of some gentrification and having multi-unit homes. that are basically catering to students or former students. So we know that there's a housing issue. One house is not going to solve that problem in a community that is so historic, that has had great, like you said, advocacy consistently, historically. Yeah, so all I would like to say is we're talking about recreational use right now. Some of the ideas that you've heard today are recreational uses, and as you can see that the planning board is suggesting that that change to residential low. So that's kind of inconsistent with one of the ideas that you heard today. The other thing is that we have several ideas that can be put together, but we need the time that we were promised at our May meeting, and I am the secretary for the Porter's Quarters Community Connection. We need the time to be able to come up with a plan that would work with our community without another entity deciding what will work for our community. We're not ungrateful for the progress that has happened, but we are saying that it's our community. Like, give us the time to come together, because we've had change of hands. We've had, elders that have died. We've had their children that are trying to make decisions for their properties. So we have some changes that have happened since 2019. And we just want to have the respect as a historical community that everyone on this board can probably recognize in some form, whether they say it out loud or not. We want the respect that we deserve to be able to make these decisions for ourselves as residents. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to this item?
Good evening. Please forgive my appearance. I'm rushing in from another meeting.
That's totally fine.
Hands-on meeting. But on August 23rd, 1950, I was born in the back room of Pastor Fox's mom's house. My grandmother lived at 407 Southwest 7th Avenue, and I'll never forget it because it was ingrained in 1950 that you have to know where you live, just in case. Through the years of growing up and being acclimated to and we must be definitely truthful about this, we are emotionally and culturally incompatible with what the governing bodies has in store for us. However, we believe that if you would listen to us with your heart and not the money, that you would make room for our legacies. We know that the hot topic in the nation right now is to erase our history, and you're doing a good job. However, in that effort, we'd like for you to at least validate the fact that we're still here. We still have fond memories like you do. And we just want to actually archive a few of them. And so I'm in love with the vision that you've seen tonight because it reminds me. I realize the 23rd of this month, I'm an elder, 75 years old. And I'd love to see, I'm a homeowner as well in Porter's right now, but I'd love to see you at least acknowledge the fact that our legacies mean a lot to us as we talk to our generations to come, that we can say, this spot will help you to remember what your grandma taught you about. That's what I'm saying to my children right now. In the home where I want you to remember your granddad, that he was the first black police officer who could only police black people in 1950. Remember that, and you lived right here. The house that my grandma lived on and is gone now. So every time I pass by that street, I have a certain tug in my heart. We need to save something. I'm asking you, I'm an advocate. Help us to help you, to keep us and our legacies alive for generations to come. This is just a little example of since I moved back here in 2019, I have another folder about 3 times as big where we've come before you with ideas after ideas. And we understand finally that it's all about the dollar bill, and that's wonderful because we need them too. But something like this would help us to keep our dollar bills circular in our neighborhood for at least 3 or 4 times before it leaves us, so that we find the drought that we're in right now. Help us to recover our financial status. And I want to thank you for listening to me tonight and listen to all the hearts of those. Give us this project. We need it. Our families need it. Our children need it. You need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public want to speak to this particular item? Otherwise, we'll bring it back to the board. See, one board member already wants to discuss, so. Seeing no other public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and perhaps motion. Dr. Murmur.
Hey, so sorry, I heard the public commenters mention something I'd like to ask of GCRA. I have a question. That's, I guess the last question's not right.
You can ask questions.
Thank you. So, couple commenters mentioned requesting data and not receiving data, as well as being told that proposals were going to come back to them that were not. What do we know about this?
Regarding the proposals coming back to them, after our May meeting, the Porters community went on hiatus until September. We did return to Porters in September, telling them we were going to go forward at the direction of city administration with the rezoning. We did try to extend that period of time long enough for them to get plans together to provide a proposal. We've been waiting for a proposal from them probably since midsummer 2024, when they promised us one in September after we had a 3-month-long period of engagement where we presented designs on that lot there. So, you know, we have provided, I think, enough length of time for them to put together something to present to not only the plan board, but also the city commission. In terms of funding, we have about $470,000 available for the project. We are perfectly willing to have a mix of single-family ADUs on that.
Is the funding data the data that the community group requested? Because sorry,
I believe they asked for information regarding the budget. It's part of our model block budget, which includes projects in both Porters and Pleasant Street. So we need to split that up. So we currently have.
Did they receive this data after? I mean, did you give them the data?
We have not given them the data yet. We haven't been back to a meeting probably in a month.
Okay, thank you. All right, so see, that's a little, I'll just say that's concerning. So if they were asked to come forward with a plan and they needed data to help in constructing that plan.
Yeah, I should point out though that we're not, as a board right now today, we're not voting on a site plan or a development plan. We're voting on a land use change.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
But
it's not a privately held parcel of land. It's held by the city, and the city commission that governs the city is asking for our advice. And right now, what I'm saying is that if GCRA did not provide data that was requested to help come up with, requested by a group to help come up with a proposal, then it would be unreasonable to expect that group to, because they're flying half blind essentially.
Right.
And community engagement is important, and I just get the sense that it didn't happen here. So I would be inclined to maybe continue this item until We've
got more board discussion.
Oh, no, I'm not making a motion right now. I'm just letting you know where I am.
Okay.
I don't think this is ready for prime time, especially considering that's a city-owned property. And
Thank you, Dr. Murmur. Mr. Ackerman.
You answered one question. This is owned by the city. I guess my question would then be to the gentleman from the GCRA is there any particular urgency to this project right this minute that we're not aware of? Because I'd be inclined to do a continuance with the understanding that there is a date certain that they will decide on some kind of project, as opposed to...
There's no compelling urgency of the moment. I would tell you that GCRA is on a 10-year plan agreement with the Alachua County, and it expires in FY29. So if we dally too long...
I was thinking like 60 days.
Yeah, 29's a long time away.
Yeah. But we have been waiting for some proposals from them for about a year and a half.
I fully understand, but it seems like maybe we could focus them on their project and everybody ends up happy. But I clearly don't want this to drag out for another year and a half. Because I understand you'll expire and then there will be nothing happening.
My department will.
Yes.
No. You'll still be around.
I don't mean you personally. I mean the GCRA and some of its funding.
Yeah.
And at some point, I assume you use that funding for something else
That's correct.
shovel
I mean,
ready.
we do have holes to plug in the city. There's some urgency, of course, with our funding shortfalls and our need to help out with projects within the GCRA alone.
No, I understand. Thank you.
I've got a follow-up to that. Is it reasonable to assume then that, I mean, the GCRA expires in fiscal year 29, but since you do have other holes you're trying to fill and there's a limited, there's a constrained pot of money, is it reasonable to assume that if a decision isn't made on this particular land, that money will move away from the land sometime before 29?
I think that is reasonable to assume. We've been getting, expressions of interest from administration to move the project along. I understand the competing needs between green space and park space, as well as affordable housing. And I'd like to allay any concerns by one of the board members here that we're going to recreate what's happened in Pleasant Street. We're definitely looking at different land models and tenure models in order to ensure a perpetual affordability for whatever goes on there. We're not interested in selling a home that 5 years later gets converted to market rate and basically exhausts the affordable housing supply within the neighborhood.
Yeah, sorry, that you're referring to me. Sorry, what I meant by that, and the reason I said smells like Pleasant Street, is because the changes to Pleasant Street were imposed on the community without meaningful engagement. So I'm just talking about the process side of it.
Okay.
Just to be clear, I'm not accusing you of ill intent. Please understand that. But process-wise, this could be done better. So.
Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Nay.
I have another question about the money, because I'm confused about the money we're talking about. Are we talking about the money from the pink house? Or is that another budget?
We'd have to have you come up and speak on the microphone.
We have two projects going on. One is for renovation of the Pink House, which is just north of the Porter's Community Center. We're currently at the point with GMP to renovate the house. We're to be taking it.
That's not this particular.
It is not this particular pot of money. We have tax increment financing that remains from the expiration of the CRA back in 2019. That is from the downtown CRA that we've allotted to the Pink House. We have what's known as interlocal money, which is that combination of CRA or city and county special revenue. That is where we're pulling money from in order to do this project. Now, that money was allocated for both Pleasant Street and Porter's, so we need to keep a proportionate amount for Pleasant Street as well, but that's where the money's coming from.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Certainly.
Mr. Nay.
I know you, Allison, talked about it a little bit. Do you know the last time, because somebody mentioned that there were houses on it? I can only see stuff, Google View, you can look back 20 years and you see nothing on that lot. Do you have any sense of when it might have had a house or when there was something there?
Thank you. Unfortunately, I do not. The research that I pulled, I saw the references to when it was a park years and years and years ago, like early 2000s. I did not see references to structures that were on it, unfortunately, in the ordinance archives that we looked through.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the board have comments, questions? We get a motion. Dr. Murmur.
Yes, so I move to continue this item until a date certain, 90 days into a future, or rather three meetings ahead.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. The ayes have it, 4-2. Motion to continue passes. Ms. McMullen, what does that mean for our quasi-judicial rezoning?
We still need to hear that item. You still need to take some sort of action, even if you just make a motion to continue,
It would seem like if we're continuing the land use, that a natural
sure.
move would
Yeah.
be to also, we wouldn't
I
rezone
see.
it without changing the
Yeah,
land use.
absolutely. So, I think we read it into the record, and then if you would like to make a motion to continue that as well.
Okay, so if you can go ahead and read that into the record, and then we'll
Sure,
take
and,
this.
and also keep in mind, we do have an affected party registered for that item that is here tonight, so they may still want to present on that.
Okay, fair
not
enough.
sure. But, okay, so, 2025-991, Porter's Quarters rezoning, LD 25-115. Would you like to defer the staff presentation? I think it's at your will at this point.
I see
Yes,
that-
I think we should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that I saw you had comments.
No, I was going to make a motion to
Okay.
defer the second.
Yeah, I think the board would like to defer that. So,
Okay.
So that we match them.
Second his motion.
Okay.
All those in favor of the deferment?
Aye.
All opposed? Deferment passes.
Does the affected party need to be informed that they can, if I recall correctly, they can choose to present now or present at the continued date?
I think so, yeah. I think to be safe, I would provide the option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our affected party, if you want to present now, you can. If you want to present when it comes back to the board at the continued date, you can choose to defer your presentation till then.
It makes way more sense to do it when it comes back.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion as well. Take that for whatever it's worth, but it'll be fresher in everyone's mind if you do it at the next hearing where this comes back up.
We're talking about 3 months, not just 1 month.
I understand what 90 days is, yes.
Yeah, well, sorry.
They may have information that could help inform.
But also,
or just
yeah.
give them the choice.
It is totally your choice, so if you want to present now, we're happy to hear it as well.
So what happens to the exhibits that I submitted tonight? Do you all see those in the meantime? Do you have access to those?
Yes, we will, 'cause I think we got those today. We'll provide them with access to those. And then you can also present at the next meeting as well. But it's up to you. You're perfectly welcome to present tonight at 2, I believe.
No, I can defer. I would
Okay.
just refer you to the exhibits I submitted. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Ms. McMullen, if you could read the next item of the agenda into the record, please.
Sure. Next item, 2025-992, UF Health South Campus Land Use Change, LD 25-000104, and we have Allison Pager again presenting for staff.
Hello, good evening, board chair and board members. I'm back. My name's Allison Pager. I'm a planner for the Department of Sustainable Development. So I'm before you today for this project, the UF Health South Campus. This will consist of 2 separate applications, one for the land use change, which is legislative, and one for the zoning map change, which is quasi-judicial. This presentation is specifically for the small-scale comprehensive plan, future land use amendment identified by petition number LD 25-000104. The applicant, NV5, is also in attendance and will have a presentation after the conclusion of staff's presentation. So this petition is for 3 subject parcels that equal in total approximately 25.55 acres. And for the record, identified as these 3 parcels, 15482, 15459, and 15460 with 6 zeros after each. The 3 parcels are south of University of Florida campus. They're bounded by Archer Road, Southwest 16th Ave, Southwest 13th Street, and Southwest 16th Street. The current land use category is UMUH, Urban Mixed Use High Intensity, and the proposed change requested is for O office for the land use designation. The subject parcels are currently developed. This area is referred to as UF Health South Campus. Please note that the 3 parcels are not within the UF Campus Developmental Agreement. However, it is part of the UF Master Plan and largely part of the Shands Health Complex. The parcels currently are home to UF Health Heart and Vascular Hospital, UF Health Shands Cancer Hospital, UF Health Shands Emergency Room and Trauma Center, and Hotel Elio. The purpose of this request is in two parts: to have the property be consistent in land use and zoning designation with other hospital properties throughout the city, and to also bring existing hospital facility structures into conformance and provide land use and zoning needed for future redevelopment and site improvements. For context, this area of the city was part of form-based city-initiated land use change and rezoning efforts that were done in 2017 when Transex zoning was first enacted. In this case, it was near the edges of UF campus and near the downtown periphery. And the changes resulting in the existing structures that were on the property being considered now legally non-conforming, because the zoning prior to that form-based change was UMU2, and the structures were built to those standards at the time. More details about this will be later in the presentation, but the next few slides are going to give some context to the area. So this is an overhead imagery where we're looking at the parcel, again, around 25.55 acres. And just as a reminder, the UF Campus Development Agreement area is in the blue. The star is where the property is at. And then this is a larger location map for reference. So the parcels are outlined in red. And then directly to the west, we have the VA hospital. To the east, there's a mixture of apartment buildings, some fast food restaurants. To the north is where you hit the UF campus properties, UF Shands facilities, the primary facilities, and then south is some more apartments. And it's bounded by those three major roads along with Southwest 16th Street. Just as a reminder from the previous slide, these are the surrounding existing uses and land use designations. And just a couple quick images to show the area. It's kind of hard to capture because it's so large, but this is if you were on Archer Road at the intersection of Southwest 16th Street. So where the grass area is the VA hospital property, and then across the street is where you first start seeing those facilities. So the larger multi-story building is the UF emergency room for Shands. This is where 13th Street and 16th Avenue intersect. So you can see some mix of facilities there. Parking garages, other hospital facilities, the hotel. And lastly, the two smaller parcels at the northern tip of the area. This kind of shows them. Archer Road is past the DNA bridge that you can kind of see in the middle, and this is along 13th Street. To the left where the trees are, that's the parcels. For the summary of the petition timeline, a pre-application meeting was held with staff. NV5, the applicant, held a neighborhood workshop. There was a staff review, and now we're at the city plan board meeting today, and future city commission meetings to come. And for public notice, this was for the neighborhood workshop that was held. This was a fairly large parcel. I wanted to make sure we included all the pictures of the signs, 9 signs posted in total, along with the mailed invites, along with the city plan board notice as well. We made sure there was plenty of signage for the large area. There's a lot of frontage, a lot of acreage, so there we go. So this petition was reviewed using the criteria outlined in section 30-3.13 of the Land Development Code and the corresponding sections of the comprehensive plan for the city of Gainesville. The criteria shown on this slide are going to be explored in more detail in the backup and the staff report, but I do have a couple of points to emphasize. As a reminder, the proposed change is for UMUH to O for office. So the goal is to have the hospital have more appropriate zoning and land use. For what is currently on the property, it's highly developed, and for any future improvements they may have to make, which the applicant will most likely go through in their presentation after this. To first hit on compatibility, so directly to the west there's existing office land use, and that is where the VA hospital is located, so it shows how a similar use has that office land use that is being proposed here. And I wanted to show this slide real quick. There's in the backup in the appendix, there's a larger table of it, but this just shows in the city of Gainesville, we have multiple hospital complexes, not just looking at doctor's offices or urgent cares, like the smaller ones, but looking at the larger facilities, to show consistency of what we see with the land use. Zoning is also shown on there for the next presentation, but in terms of land use for the majority, the VA Hospital, North Florida Regional Medical Center, HCA on Archer, the dialysis center, we see the office land use there. There are a couple of exceptions. So UF Health Shands Hospital is part of that UF campus development agreement, so they're going to have the education land use. And then one standout is the UF Health Rehab Hospital, which is smaller in size, and it has that mixed use, low land use. And just something for the North Florida Regional one. It's largely office, but there's portions of it that have conservation on it because of some environmental features. So that's what the asterisk is for. So for the next part, just a comparison of the two land uses that we're looking at. So the current is UMUH, which is urban mixed use high intensity, and some criteria that are found in the future land use element of the comprehensive plan, policy 4.1.1, are here, along with at the bottom, taken from the land development code for corresponding zoning districts in the future land use categories. So just to keep in mind for the next presentation where MD medical services will be proposed, I think it's important to look at the context of what both of the land uses allow. So with what is currently existing UMUH, it only allows for that U9 transit zoning. For special districts, it allows for PD, plan development, conservation, and public services. It does not allow for the medical services, so just wanted to point that out. A couple other key things. On here is the height, which will matter for the hospital in its current configuration. So for UMUH, for the height standards, it allows for a 6-story max with the ability to go up 2 more stories with the bonus system as it qualifies. For office, the height is a 5-story maximum. However, it's better tailored to the existing uses because there is a standard for large-scale medical facilities that are located in medical services zoning, key for the next presentation. They can increase to 14 stories with a special use permit. So that's important to consider for the hospital that it currently exists on the property. And other than that, the associated, the proposed office land use, well, it also provides better compatibility for the structures that are on the property for how they can look versus transect zoning in what the transect associated land uses are designed for, which we see a lot in our like downtown areas. And the very last point was just to address redevelopment, which could be considered for this in the future. The site is already highly developed and has established streetscapes, multimodal forms of transportation, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, and building frontage. So any future redevelopment would retain the pattern per the applicant in their submittal, but it would still be held to the proposed standards of office and the proposed associated medical services zoning. So there would still be standards that came with that. And sorry, this map is just a broader view of the area. I had a star on it, but I think it disappeared. But that is the subject property right there. So we can kind of see how we see the UF property that is directly north of it, and then the office that would continue over, and then there's a wide range of uses around it. So with that being said, based on the review of this criteria, staff recommends approval of this petition LD 25-000104 for the land use change request for the subject parcels. I'm available for any questions and discussion, and the applicant NV5 also has an additional presentation if you'd like to hear that first.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have one question. It's very minor, but a place like, I know there's restaurants there in that area on 13th, just north of 16th, it's in the affected area. India Roma, I think, is the one I'm thinking of. It used to be Bluegill. Under office, obviously they're grandfathered in, but if a new restaurant were to come into that building, they would need a special use permit under office. Is that right?
So we would have to look at the associated zoning district in that permitted uses table. We can double check that real quick.
I mean, it is one of the smaller uses of that area, but I just wanted just some clarification on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to double check as well, since I have the code here in front of me.
So a restaurant is
Actually, that would be
permitted in the
Okay.
MD.
All right.
Sorry,
Thank
that
you
took
for
so long.
clarification. No, not a problem at all.
I didn't.
Sorry, restaurant is permitted in medical services, which would be the proposed zoning district for
It
this.
is permitted.
It is.
Okay.
Sorry that took so long.
No worries. Thank you. Anybody else on the board have questions before we have another presentation, or? I think we're good to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pager. My name is Ryan Thompson. I'm an AICP certified planner with NV5. We're the agent for the applicant. I do have a combined presentation for both the land use amendment and the zoning. If that's okay, I would like to present once and have it transferred to the record for the zoning item in the interest of time. Before you is a consideration for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning applications for the UF Health South Campus. I'd like to share my appreciation for Ms. Pager for her very thorough presentation, and I apologize for a lot of overlap in the information here. I will try to be as swift as possible when that occurs. So our request is for a small scale comp plan amendment from urban mixed use high intensity to office, and a companion application for the transect urban 9 to medical services. And really the intent of the application is simple, to allow redevelopment consistent with all other medical campuses within the city of Gainesville. And as staff mentioned, the existing facilities, both the Cancer Hospital and the HVN Hospital, as well as Hotel Elio, were all permitted under the UMU2 standards. And I'll share where those differences lie and why these could be considered non-conforming structures on the site, which then leads to further problems in the event of having to redevelop those facilities. We held the required neighborhood workshop. Notice went out to adjacent property owners, and the signs were posted on the site. We did have 4 attendees at the neighborhood workshop. Discussions centered around the differences in the land use and zoning and what is most appropriate for this site. And we have followed the city's process for these applications, as you see here. Why are we here? For a number of reasons. UF Health facilities are nearing capacity, and there's a high demand, increasing demand for beds, both an aging population and a demand by those patients for single occupancy rooms, which make the existing facilities less efficient internally. And the South Campus is substantially built. It is site constrained. We need to build vertical to be able to meet that demand, to reach that capacity. And as I mentioned, the facilities on site were permitted under the UMU2 standards, and this is the only medical campus within the city of Gainesville that doesn't have the office future land use and medical services zoning district. And the MD zoning is specifically intended for this type of campus. And just quite frankly, the existing U9 standards just don't allow this campus to reach its full potential and best serve our community. This is an aerial of the site. You can see that it is substantially built. There are 2 opportunities that UF Health has identified for redevelopment on the site. The one to the left is a surface parking lot, and the one to the right has an existing single-story structure. As you can see, they have done some extensive evaluation of the site and what could possibly go there. A little historical timeline. Before the form-based code was adopted, the site had the UMU2 land use and zoning. That's when the Cancer Hospital and HVN Hospital were permitted and constructed. With the adoption of the form-based code, the site was assigned the U9, as well as the southwest corner that's not in the subject property. The VA hospital, interestingly, was assigned the MD zoning district. And then interestingly, within a year, that southwest corner I mentioned was changed to MD, but the subject property remained in U9. This is a map of the other medical campuses that Ms. Pager referenced. In the top is the North Florida Regional Medical Center, the VA hospital and our UF Health South campus, and then the new HCA on Archer Road that was annexed and assigned land use and zoning in 2022. All the sites except for ours have the office and MD designations. A context map for the site. We are bound to the north by Archer Road, the east by 13th Street or US 441, to the south by 16th Avenue, and to the west by 16th Street. Immediately to our north is the UF main campus, where the UF Shands Hospital is located. This south campus is a direct extension of those facilities. And to our immediate west is the VA hospital, as I mentioned, and then apartments characterize the east side of 13th Street. Looking closer at the project site, the hospitals line Archer Road. That side of the property is substantially built. Along 441, we have the 2 parking garages with ground floor retail and wide sidewalks around the entire property. Hotel Elio is the serpentine building you see along the south. If I were to characterize this property, it would have, I would bring to your attention the large open space and pedestrian orientation to the center of the property, which emphasizes the need to maximize the opportunity in the 2 locations that I previously pointed to. The map of the existing zoning, the UMUH is aligned for multifamily and commercial uses that abut Main Street and UF's main campus. Office, on the other hand, allows hospital and medical uses specifically. This is zoomed out a little bit, but you can see along this segment of Archer Road where the VA hospital and other medical facilities already have that office future land use. The zoning similarly has U9. U9's characterized by high density residential and commercial. The MD, on the other hand, is specifically designed for hospital campuses, hence our request. And zooming out, the same thing, and we've already looked at this map, identifying the other medical campuses within the city. So looking at the district descriptions or purposes, rather, as they're referenced in the Land Development Code, U6 is higher density, mixed use, accommodating retail offices and apartments. That is appropriate around UF's main campus, sans where major hospitals have been already constructed. The only alternative that would get us the building height that is necessary for redeveloping the site is the downtown. So we have looked at other zoning districts. This allows the highest density and height, but the greatest variety of uses and doesn't address the needs of medical facilities specifically. Where the MD zoning district was specifically designed for health facilities. And the site context, we have major hospitals on the site. It makes sense that medical services is what's applied to the site. Looking at the permitted uses, it's interesting that the transect zones don't address hospitals specifically. It's not a common urban use. Staff has been gracious in considering hospitals as health services, but we're relying on that interpretation. And as you'll see later tonight, there is an item on your agenda where that interpretation has changed over time. So we would be much more comfortable with a zoning district that specifically allows hospitals. And it is also interesting that health services is also listed in that zoning district. At some point, somebody felt that there was a distinction. Comparing quickly the two different zoning districts, the U9 and the UMU2, again, the existing facilities were permitted under the UMU2. That was the standard at the time that they were required to meet. The U9 decreased the block perimeter by 600 feet and increased the first floor glazing requirement by 15%. That's a significant number when you have a target. So those are the takeaways. The U2 specifically permitted a hospital, had a larger block perimeter, and less first floor glazing. When looking at the DT, it exacerbates the issue. Okay, the block perimeter is further reduced 400 feet, and the primary frontage is increased by 10%. And then looking at the MD, it is very similar to the UMU2. It specifically allows hospitals and allows the building height that we're seeking. And just so you can see all of these together, what most closely represents what is appropriate for this site. We are consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff has reviewed these applications and agrees that we are consistent. In particular, goals 1, 2, and 4, and then the considerations for change of the future land use map. This is obviously an urban site that's bound by existing development and does not constitute sprawl. And I'll go ahead and mention, even though this is the land use item, we are in compliance with the land development code, in particular the rezoning criteria and those for the medical services zoning district. Again, I'll reiterate, staff has reviewed these items. They find both applications in compliance, both with the comprehensive plan and the land development code, and have recommended approval, and I respectfully request your recommendation for approval to the City Commission. With that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. That was very thorough. If anybody on the board has questions, the floor is yours. Otherwise, I'm going to throw it open to the public. If anybody from the public has, thank you so much. I think it was so thorough we don't have questions, so that's always mission accomplished. If any members of the public would like to speak on this particular item, the floor is open for you to speak on this particular item for 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion and maybe even a vote. Dr. Murmur.
I mean, I was going to make a motion, but I saw somebody else's.
Mr. Ackerman. You're gonna
I was just going to make a motion. Let Dr. Murmur make it.
You got in first, so lucky you.
Move to approve, to recommend approval of petition LD 25-000104.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Ms. McMullen, if you could read the next item, the agenda into the record, please.
Yes, the next item is 2025-993 UFL South Campus rezoning, LD 25000106, and we have Allison Pager to present again.
You got all of them today.
I'm done after this one. Thank you, board. My name is Allison. I'm here to present this item. To preface, some of the slides in this presentation will be identical to the previous item, so I'll skip past or briefly summarize those, but please feel free to stop me at any time if I need to go more in depth on something. But for the record, this is for the zoning map change, which is quasi-judicial and identified by petition number LD 25-000106 for the UF Health South Campus project. This is a reminder of the information previously seen on the last item. For this proposal, the current zoning designation is Urban 9, U9, and the proposed change requested is for Medical Services, MD. These are just reminder slides of the location.
I almost forgot.
And all the public notice. Okay, so this petition was reviewed using the criteria outlined in section 30-3.14 of the Land Development Code. The criteria mentioned here on the screen are explored in more detail in the backup and staff report, so I'll try to be brief, just cover the highlights. So just as a reminder, the proposal is to change the existing U9 to MD, which is Medical Services. Medical Services is a special district. So, and in reference to the last petition that we heard that was recommended for approval, the land use category for that office is the only one that allows for this special district MD zoning for compatibility reasons. I'm gonna skip ahead to this table that does a comparison of U9 and MD. As was mentioned and is highlighted, the main thing in question along with all this is the permitted use on the property, which is the hospital. So there's a comparison table in the backup that shows use for use, what changes between the two. But hospital is permitted in Medical Services, whereas in U9 it's not mentioned, so it's assumed to not be permitted. Health Services is permitted, but it does have a definition provided in our Land Development Code that would be up for interpretation. So the other items to note are the height. So as a reminder, U9 is 6 stories by right, 8 with building height bonus. Medical Services is 5 by right as a maximum, but there is that stipulation for a maximum of 14 with a special use permit specifically for the larger scale medical facilities. As a reminder, that would not be approved with this. That would be a separate application that would also go before you. And the other things on here are just the standards that are different. So U9 does have a lot of dimensional building architectural standards. MD as a special district has different sets of standards that are more geared towards the development we see on the site. And just a reminder of the surrounding zoning designations. This is also seen as compatible. Apologies, the star is missing, but that's the property. And as we see, MD is directly to the west and it would extend further, which we find compatible with that area. And with all of that being said, based on the review of this criteria, staff recommends approval of petition LD 25-000106 for the zoning map change requests for the subject parcels. As we've seen, our applicant NV5 has provided a presentation that also applies to this item, but we are both here for questions if needed. Thank you.
I have one other minor question. I noticed you guys did the advertising in the Main Street Daily News and not the Gainesville Sun. Is that just sort of the new standard going forward for how the Gainesville Sun has fallen?
I'll refer to Brittany on that one.
Yes, we do typically use Main Street. We sometimes use Gainesville Sun also.
Okay. Gainesville Sun, if you're watching, get on it. Stop falling apart. I used to write for you guys years ago. So.
To add, we now currently for the department and the city in general, we're looking for as many avenues as there are to meet our state statute requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Gainesville Sun helps us, and that's what we've used traditionally. And what we've also found is Main Street Daily News actually has a broader distribution and also has been more responsive for us. So
Huh.
we use
Not at all
both.
surprised. Okay, thank you for that clarification and for indulging me in it. Dr. Murmur.
Yeah, thank you. First, thank you for really speeding through that, and you did a great job, and I think I speak for all of us when I say we appreciate that. Second, when I was reviewing the backup prior to the meeting, I missed the footnote about the parking structure. Do you know offhand what that footnote is about in MD zoning?
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Or- I guess the question is like, does that, the maximum lot usage, is it that the parking structure is exempt from that, or are there restrictions on parking?
No, Mr. Chair, it's a requirement for a minimum percentage, I believe 75% of parking to be within a parking structure to allow that height.
Okay, but you're already thinking about building up vertically, so that's not an issue?
No.
I see, not that, okay.
No. I believe, looking at the site, it's very close, if not already, at that
Okay,
percentage.
perfect.
Yeah. And, Mr. Chair, while I have the floor, I just wanted to clarify that I was sworn in at the beginning of the hearing and would like my presentation to be reflected for this item as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I found the footnote if you want me to read it.
Oh, no, I guess like, the intent was I just didn't know if there was some
Yeah.
requirement, or some restriction on what is allowed to be used for structured parking that would make it difficult, because the parking's already an issue there. So I didn't know if that was something we needed to alert the commission to, but it sounds like it's not. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
If no other members of the board have questions at this time, I'll open it up to members of the public. If anybody from the public wants to speak, again, on this particular item, you have the floor for 3 minutes. And seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion and a vote.
Let's do the Bob thing again, Bob.
Don't all light up the board at once here, guys. Come on, Nick, do it.
Okay, motion to approve LD 25-106, UF Health South Campus rezoning.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much again for the presentations. Ms. McMullen, if you can read the next item of the agenda into the record, please.
All right, next item is 2025-994 Chestnut Northeast 8th Avenue Land Use Change LD 25000124. And I believe we have Nathaniel Chan as the planner presenting on this item.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Chair Sanchez and planning board members. Nathaniel Chan, planner for the City of Gainesville, Department of Sustainable Development. This is petition LD 25-000124, the Chestnut Northeast 8th Avenue land use change. The subject property is located at the 1200 block of Northeast 8th Avenue and encompasses 4 different parcels within this block. It's approximately 1.38 acres in size, and it currently has urban 4 zoning and mixed use office residential future land use. And the property is currently vacant, and the proposal today, sorry, I forgot to mention the applicant is EDA, and the requested land use change today is going from mixed use office residential to urban mixed use, and the proposed zoning is going from urban 4 to urban 6. Here is the subject property in orange, and some surrounding developments of note are called out in blue. The main one to focus on, I suppose, is the 8th and Waldo Road site, which may also be called the Citizens Field Revitalization Project, located within walking distance of the subject property. And there are some other non-residential uses also within the area. That project at Citizens Field proposes improved facilities and reutilization, bless you, of the site, and a sports complex and other streetscape improvements. Additionally, something to note is the city approved land use changes and rezonings on the portion closer to Waldo Road. There's that office complex over here that was a petition earlier last year, I believe. So here is the future land use map existing. So the property currently is mixed-use office residential. To the north is mixed-use low. East is urban mixed-use, which is the proposed future land use for this subject property. To the south, more mixed-use office residential, and also to the west. The green area is Citizens Field, which has public and institutional facilities future land use. So the proposal today is to urban mixed use, as I stated. So quick comparison between the two land use categories. These are the descriptions that are provided in the comprehensive plan. But just to give a summary, the mixed-use office residential future land use category, it allows more office-oriented development with professional and business serving uses. Some strictly commercial uses like restaurants are only allowed in the mixed-use office residential land use category with a special use permit. Other things to note are MOR allows up to 20 units per acre and is limited to 3 stories maximum. The urban mixed-use future land use category allows more non-residential uses and up to 60 units per acre. I'll clarify that the proposed zoning, urban 6, only allows up to 50 units per acre. And the urban mixed use also allows up to 4 to 5 stories here. And I think that's pretty much it on this slide. The change for land use will introduce compatibility buffers to the site, mainly to the portion that is remaining mixed-use office residential on the southwest side, southwest corner of the block. Here, compatibility buffers, as outlined in the Land Development Code, identify minimum requirements for buffering between land uses. So currently, there are no compatibility buffers required because it's all mixed-use office residential. But with the introduction of urban mixed use to this block, a compatibility buffer type A would be required, and that is shown here for your convenience, but in the Land Development Code, it's a 9-foot width buffer from that portion that's remaining mixed-use office residential. Staff reviewed the land use change application and found that the petition meets the review criteria for future land use changes as identified in policy 4.1.3 of the comprehensive plan and 3.1.3 or 30-3.13 of the Land Development Code. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan in that it allows a mix of uses and supports urban infill and development of this vacant site. It's a site that is well connected to city services and facilities, including sidewalks on both sides of Northeast 8th Avenue, and is compatible with the surrounding land uses, urban mixed use, and mixed use office residential. Also, based on review from the city's environmental coordinator, there are no significant environmental resources or wetlands on the property. With that, staff recommends approval of LD 25-000124, the Chestnut Northeast 8th Avenue land use change. The applicant is also here, and I'm here for questions as well.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chan. Anybody from the board have any questions for Mr. Chan? Seeing none, or the applicant, I guess, that up too, but seeing none, do we have a presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm Clay Swager with EDA Consultants. I don't have a PowerPoint for you tonight. I thought maybe I could spare you a few of your valuable minutes tonight.
Appreciate it.
But I do appreciate you considering this item along with the zoning change. This may look familiar to you, this area. There's a lot of activity with the city in their efforts to revitalize MLK Center and Citizens Field. Also, this board considered the exact same land use and zoning changes for the old Jones Edmonds property. So this is sort of an extension of that right next door. And we're still maintaining that step-down approach from higher density intensity transects down to the lower. We're not abutting any single-family zoning or land use districts, so I think this request is very consistent with that pattern, and we would just like to be able to have that additional flexibility on behalf of the property owners. We did have a neighborhood workshop. There weren't any objections to the request. If you look at the land use pattern in the area, there's a variety of public activities and commercial and a church to the west. So there's just a wide range, a mix of uses in this area. So we think that the changes would be consistent and compatible. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Springer. Seeing no questions from the board.
Thank you all.
Thank you. If any member of the public wants to speak on this particular item, you have 3 minutes to say your piece. Hi, and if you could I just ask if you could just state your name for the record.
My name's Sharon Bauer, and I'm president of Northeast Neighbors, the neighborhood association that represents neighborhoods between Northeast 9th Street and Waldo Road and University Avenue and 8th Avenues. And by the way, we were not notified of a neighborhood workshop on this, or we would certainly have been there. This Northeast 8th Avenue is almost entirely single family from Main Street to Waldo Road. The intersection with Main Street, there's a Firestone and a convenience store with gas pumps. At the intersection with Waldo Road, there's a payday loan store. There's a former day labor store that's for sale, and also, of course, the huge Jones Edmonds property that's for sale. Otherwise, what's there are public uses such as Citizens Park, the Army Reserve Center, the former armory that the county now owns. There's the Firefighters Union office, a small church, and the only commercial properties there are the East End Eatery and a convenience store. Everything there is single-family zoning adjacent to that property. Everything from 8th Avenue south to University is single-family homes that I was surprised to learn had been rezoned to MOR, is it? So we cannot imagine why the Chestnut family wants to change part of this to UMU and part of it to Urban 6, which I understand will allow up to 12 stories and incredible density, and it's incompatible. It's incompatible with the neighborhood and with everything around it. So I would urge you to please not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that want to speak to this particular issue? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion. Ms. Sutton.
I just wanted to mention, in all the craziness of December, I forgot to send in my Form 8B, but I'll be recusing myself and sending that in shortly.
Thank you. Dr. Murmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to, and thank you for that public comment. That was insightful. I did want to make one correction, though. On 8th Avenue between Waldo and 9th Street, there is a convenience store, a restaurant, East End Eatery, and then there's another commercial business there. So I just wanted the board to...
Yeah, there's the payday lender that's on the corner there.
Yeah. This is my neighborhood too, so I'm just sort of familiar with it. So there is already some lower scale commercial activity right there that's away from the Waldo intersection.
Right, and the Agua Fresca guys there. It's
Yep.
real good Agua Fresca.
And there's all those old military buildings there that are multifamily.
Right, there's some military application buildings there that aren't single family, just for clarification. Any other comments from the board? Anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll move to approve, or move to recommend approval of petition LD 25-000124.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously with one abstain. Ms. McMullen, if you could read the next item of the agenda into the record, please.
Next item, 2025-995, Chestnut Northeast 8th Avenue rezoning LD 25-000125. We do have a staff presentation.
Hi, good evening again. Nathaniel Chan, planner for the City of Gainesville, Department of Sustainable Development. This is the companion rezoning item, LD 25-000125, the Chestnut Northeast 8th Avenue rezoning. So I'll skip through the introduction of the site. It is the same location as previously presented, but I do have a couple of new slides to share with you on the just highlighting the difference between the Urban 4 and Urban 6 zoning district. So I will get to those. Just briefly touching over the zoning of the surrounding area. The subject property is zoned Urban 4. Urban 4 does exist also to the south of the subject property, and to the east is Urban 6 zoning. To the west is Urban 3 zoning, and to the north is mixed use low intensity. So just an overview of that, and the proposed zoning for this subject petition is Urban 6 for the area. I provided a comparison between the permitted uses in the Urban 4 and Urban 6 zoning districts. So anything here in this table within A is permitted as an accessory use, with a P is permitted by right, anything with a dash is not permitted, and anything with an S is a special use permit required. So I've also color coded it, so anything that's in blue is now allowed with the Urban 6 zoning that's being proposed. Anything in orange would no longer be allowed in Urban 6. And if it is shown in white, that means there is no change between the change being proposed today from Urban 4 to Urban 6. So as you can see with the permitted residential uses, there are no changes to what is allowed as far as the residential type. So multifamily, single family development, there's no change between the two zoning districts. Here, there are essentially changes in terms of what is allowed between Urban 4 and 6 with respect to non-residential uses. So the Urban 6 zoning district is classified as allowing more non-residential uses than Urban 4. So those are highlighted in blue for you today to look over. There will be no essentially reductions in the permitted uses between the two zoning districts. So I'll click through those for you to review, and that's also in the staff report. So things like the funeral home, gas stations, by special use permit, libraries, and others would be allowed in the Urban 6 zoning district. Things like restaurants and retail sales would also be permitted in Urban 6. Here's also a comparison table between the building form standards between Urban 6 and Urban 4. So Urban 4 allows up to 20 units per acre, and Urban 6 allows up to 50 units per acre. There's a change in the maximum number of stories allowed. So Urban 4 allows 3, Urban 6 allows up to 4 by right, 5 with a bonus, either for tree preservation or for affordable housing. The max building height is shown here, going from 42 by right, 42 feet up to 60 feet by right, and there's an increased glazing requirement for non-residential uses, going from 30% glazing to 50%. Other building form standards like setbacks and building placement, those all remain the same between the two zoning districts. So still remaining the urban transect in terms of trying to build that high quality, more closer look at the urban form and building a better pedestrian experience. The rezoning meets the review criteria found in 30-3.14 of the Land Development Code. The permitted uses and allowed intensity and density are compatible with the surrounding area. Other things to note here, the subject property is currently vacant, so there's not necessarily conservation of the any existing uses of the site. This zoning change would be sort of introducing more non-residential, potentially permitted uses to the site, which could be complementary to the plans for the Citizens Field project. We found that it also meets the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan in promoting urban infill and development. Staff also reviewed the petition in terms of section 30-3.14 of the Land Development Code and meeting the transect zone rezoning criteria. The Urban 6 zoning district provides an extension of the Urban 6 to the east of the subject property, and also is sort of a step down, if you will, to the Urban 4 to the south and Urban 3 to the west. I talked about compatibility buffers in terms of the land use change, so some of that will be applied with any development that occurs. And the change to Urban 6 would also facilitate better connectivity of the site if development occurs. Things like sidewalks, landscaping, things that are required in urban transit zones would still apply as part of any development application. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for the time. Staff is recommending approval of LD 25-000125, and I'm here for questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Anybody from the board have a question for Mr. Chan on this item? All right, seeing none, thanks. We'll open it back up to members of the public. If anybody wants to speak on this, same as last time, 3 minutes.
Again, everything on 8th Avenue, everything south of 8th Avenue, north of 8th Avenue is single family with the exception of the public uses like the Armory and the Army Reserve and the convenience store and East End Eatery. This is incompatible, and it is vehemently opposed by all of the people who live adjacent to it. And I can't understand why the Chestnut family needs to upzone this in such a way to allow 5 stories and the density that these changes would allow.
Thank you. If there are any other members of the public who want to speak on this particular item, the floor is yours. Otherwise, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion, discussion, and a vote. Dr. Murmur.
Sorry to prolong this, but I did want to take this opportunity, and thank you, Mr. Chan, for that great presentation. I think this is a good opportunity to remind everybody that permitted uses table, the drive-through facilities.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, I mean, this is why we need to go and clean that up a bit.
We should, just wanted to remind everybody, I'm still interested in discussing maybe requiring special use permits for drive-through facilities. Because in this case, I don't think they're going to put a drive-through there. In this case, a 2-lane road like that, for example, to have a drive-through would be disastrous.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to build a drive-through, but just a reminder, I'd be interested in this board discussing that, not tonight.
Right.
No, I want it now.
No. Yeah, I agree with that. I actually had a similar thought of, we see these things come up and it kind of reminds us why we have some questions about what's allowed in certain zoning categories and why we think, as a board, I think we've all agreed that we need to go through and review some of this and suggest some changes. So thank you for that, Dr. Murmur. Does anybody else on the board have comments or wants to make a motion for this item? Don't all jump up at once.
Do it again. Move to recommend approval of petition LD 25-000125.
Do we have a second? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously, again with one vote abstaining. Ms. McMullen, if you want to read the next one in.
All right, next item, 2025-996, Wawa Special Use Permit and Major Development Plan, LD 25-000042 and LD 25-000041. We have Jason Simmons from our office here to do this presentation. And just to note, you'll note I just read two petition numbers into the record. The project does fall into the category of major development plan. Typically, the Development Review Board hears major development plans. However, when it's accompanied with a special use permit, the Plan Board can review and approve development plans as well. So we kind of use that as an efficiency type of thing to let you all review both applications rather than taking it here for the SUP and separately to the DRB for the development plan.
So it wouldn't go to the DRB at all?
Correct. It'll come here instead of the DRB. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, I'm Jason Simmons with the Department of Sustainable Development. Here to talk to you tonight about the property highlighted in I don't know which one, highlighted in yellow. It's for the Wawa Williston Road project. Again, a special use permit is required, as well as the major development plan review. You see the property is basically on the southeast corner of Southwest 34th Street and Southwest Williston Road. Over here, just to the west of the subject property, is Interstate 75. It's a little bit less than a quarter mile from the subject property, I-75 is, and that comes into play, which I'll explain a little bit later in the presentation. So the request here, well, first, the picture shows basically the subject property, again, located, you're looking sort of west down Williston Road. If you look in the distance back here, that is the north building of the VA office development that's fairly new, that's back here. There's two buildings. This is the north building. To the left or to the east in this picture is the Dutch Brothers coffee shop. And further west of that is the Gallo Car Wash. Again, 3349 Southwest Williston Road is the address. The overall, now, if you look on the map, you see this is the overall parcel. That was one tax parcel number, and that covers both sides. The one side is for stormwater pond, and then this eastern, generally half of the property is the subject property tonight, which is about 1.66 acres in size. The existing land use is urban mixed use, and the existing zoning is urban 7 or U7. So the request is a special use permit to construct a fueling station with 12 fueling positions and a review of the major development plan with the fueling station, a convenience store with a quick serve restaurant and outdoor seating, and the associated infrastructure. Now, in the Land Development Code, if you are a zoning district other than one of the transect zones, if you're within a quarter mile of Interstate 75, you are allowed to put up 12 fueling positions by right. but that doesn't apply for the transect zones because of the special considerations and what have you. Therefore, we're here tonight for the special use permit. The zone, the U7, 6 fueling positions are allowed by right, but you need special use permit for this zoning district to get up to 12 fueling positions. A little history: under a previous petition in 2021, a fueling station with 12 fueling positions and a car wash was previously approved at this location. But the Land Development Code has changed in some significant ways, and thus when that development went away, the code changed somewhat, so now we're required to come in for the special use permit and for a public hearing for the major development plan review. This is an existing land use map. The star shows the subject property location. Up here you have mixed use medium. The subject property and the adjacent properties kind of to the east are UMU, or urban mixed use. You have office zoning down here for the VA center. You've got commercial office establishments up here, including a shopping center, a McDonald's, and other commercial businesses. And just to the west, which is in Alachua County, hasn't been annexed yet, is a property with Alachua County tourist/entertainment land use. For the zoning map, I believe the property up here, which is a UF Health corporate park facility, it's got corporate park zoning. You've got urban 7 zoning to the east here, the general office zoning to the south for the hospital. For the county area, you've got Alachua County highway-oriented business. And you have BUS zoning in the shopping center. There's also a gas station over here as well. So this is a view of the development plan for the proposed fueling station with the 12 fueling positions, also about a 6,375 square foot combined convenience store with a quick serve restaurant. As noted before with the land use and zoning maps, this area is pretty heavily into commercial and office uses in the surrounding properties. The area is a growing commercial corridor, and it includes vehicle-oriented businesses such as a car wash and a drive-through coffee shop. I mean, you've got to the west in the county, you've got another gas station. You have another gas station across from that on the north side of Southwest Williston Road. You have the office development with the VA medical clinic. So primarily you've got commercial and office uses in this general area. The proposed building, which is located here and is oriented towards Southwest Williston Road here to the north. The proposed building is a one-story structure, so it's compatible with the height of other commercial businesses in that area. That picture shows the landscape plan for the proposed building. You see around the east, the south, and the west are the perimeter buffers for a gasoline or alternative fuel station that need to be type B buffers with a minimum 4-foot tall opaque masonry wall or privé type hedge along those property boundaries to minimize the view of fueling pumps. These are the elevations that are proposed for the building. At the I believe this is the south elevation. You have the north elevation here. I believe this is the elevation that actually faces Southwest Williston Road. Then you have, I believe that's the west, and this is the east elevation for the building. The elevation along Southwest Williston Road needs 60% window glazing, which it meets. And you see glazing around the other elevations as well. The public notification signage was put up in compliance with the Land Development Code requirements for public notification. Now, there's the special use permit criteria listed in section 30-3.24 of the Land Development Code. On the next few slides, we'll talk about these briefly. So the proposed use or development has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the Land Development Code. The property is urban 7, which allows gas stations and alternative fuel stations as permitted uses by right. The proposed station is allowed by right in the urban 7 zoning district. The proposed use of development has to be compatible with the existing land use pattern and future uses designated by the comprehensive plan. The development site is surrounded by properties that are commercial or office in nature. The adjacent properties to the subject property along the south side of Williston Road have the same urban mixed use and land use category. These same properties have the same urban 7 zoning designation. The area is a growing commercial corridor and includes vehicle-oriented businesses throughout the area. The proposed use will not adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. The proposed facility is a typical use for a commercial corridor, especially near an interstate highway. The use is compatible with the uses in the vicinity of the site and do not pose a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Ingress and egress to the property has to be provided, allowing for safe and convenient automobile, bicycle, and pedestrian mobility at the site. The parcel will have access to Southwest Williston Road from a driveway entrance on the east side of the property. There's another driveway entrance, well, there's two actual driveway entrances into the subject property itself. There's another driveway entrance, well, let's see. There's a driveway entrance to be built on the east side of the property. There's another one to be built on the south side of the property that eventually will access Southwest 34th Street to the west. The driveway along the east side of the property that's proposed will continue further south into the VA hospital facility and also provide access into the Dutch Brothers Coffee Shop, which is just to the east of this proposal. Off-street parking, loading areas, etc., will not adversely impact adjacent single-family residential property. There is no adjacent properties that have land use or zoning designations for single-family residential use in this area. As far as noise, glare, exterior lighting, or odor effects, the applicants during development plan review had to address how the project meets the general standards as outlined in 30-85, 8.3 in Article 8. The development standards staff has concluded have been met by the proposal. There's adequate provision for refuse and service loading areas, and these areas have to be reviewed for screening, access, location on the site, etc. The plans indicate the proposed location for the refuse and service loading areas are located sort of to the side and the rear of the proposed building, and generally located away from the street or the areas one would expect the heaviest pedestrian and bicycle use. The city's technical review committee has reviewed the project in light of public utilities and whether they're available to serve the site adequately, and that has been determined. Screening and buffers, showed you earlier the landscape buffer areas around the east, south, and the west side of the properties. These landscape areas help to minimize the view of the fuel pumps, generally using screening like the shrubbery. There's no single-family residential nearby, so there are no adjacent properties that have land use or zoning designations for single-family residential use. So the hours of operation are not nearly as much of a concern as if they were neighboring existing residential areas. Special requirements set forth in the Land Development Code for the particular use involved are met, and they are listed after the special use permit criteria. I won't go necessarily line by line for those criteria that are found in section 30-5-14 of the Land Development Code, but screening, let's see. Gasoline and alternative fuel stations also include, other than just selling gas, they have to include retail petroleum sales. They can include car washes, either separately or in combination with the sale of food, or restaurants, or gas pumps as accessory to a convenience store or restaurant. The project will comply with the provisions of section 30-5.14A concerning accessory uses. There will be no car wash, rental of vehicles, or a vehicle service center for minor repairs, trucks to automobiles, trucks, or trailers. Some minor automobile parts may be available for retail sale in the store. Vending machines will be located inside the building under the roof of the principal structure. Again, the third point reiterates that the request is to get a special use permit for 12 fueling positions. And then this is just listing from the Land Development Code, section 30-5.14. Really what that talks about are sort of the design requirements in the Land Development Code concerning gasoline and alternative fuel stations. Things like the distance of fuel pumps and pump islands from any right-of-way line or property line. It has to be a minimum of 15 feet. It's probably at least triple that or so. The pumps and accessory automotive uses have to be located to the rear or side of buildings and at least 50 feet from the property line of any property with residential zoning. There is no residential zoning nearby, so the fuel pumps are located to the south side of the proposed building. The number and width of driveways shall be minimized. The only driveway that directly accesses, well, there's only one driveway that directly accesses Southwest Williston Road. You have to access that driveway before you can actually turn into the subject property, with one proposed on the east and one on the south side of the development. Cross-access or joint-use driveways have to be provided to adjacent non-residential developments. And like I said, one of those driveways coming off Williston Road eventually provides access to the VA, a medical center to the south of the subject property. There's to be a minimum of 25% window area or glazing at pedestrian level on all first floor building sides with street frontage. Public entrance shall be provided that faces the street where the building is, and you can see on the elevations that access is provided by a public entrance. And the main ones are on the north and the south elevations, which includes the Williston Road side. Pedestrian and bike access shall be provided from the public sidewalk to any retail or restaurant facilities on the site. Off-street parking is to be located to the side or rear of the building. There is a limitation on the canopy height in the Land Development Code, saying it shall not exceed 15 feet in height, but the city cannot regulate that because of Florida statutes of fairly recent years saying that you cannot regulate the canopy height of the Wawa canopy as it is part of the corporate design, image, and branding identity of the Wawa. So we can't regulate that provision of this section. They provided perimeter buffers, type B buffers with shrubbery on the applicable sides. Dumpster location, the dumpsters have to be enclosed by a masonry wall and placed as far away from existing adjacent residential uses as practical. The trash compound will be enclosed by a masonry wall. There is no existing adjacent residential use. Car wash facilities have to have their vacuums, noise-making items in a certain place. There is no car wash facility proposed for this development. And a convenience store or restaurant or combination shall be present when fueling positions exceed 6. So they have a convenience store with a proposed quick-serve restaurant because they have more than 6 fueling positions proposed. With that, this went through the major development plan review, and at this point in the review process, there are no comments or conditions other than comments providing information only for the applicants. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition LD 25-00042, SUP, and the major development plan review, LD 25-00041. The conditions are, in case you have conditions, or if there was a stray condition somewhere that was missed. But I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. The applicants are here, and they have a presentation to make to you. And
Great. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Does anybody on the board have questions? Dr. Murmur.
Mr. Chair, I saw in the backup prior to coming here that there were going to be the 2 driveways. I didn't see anything in the backup about, you kept using the term eventually a driveway to the south. Is the plan to open, do you know if the plan is to begin the use prior to completing that south driveway that goes to 34th Street?
so they'll need, well, here's Williston Road. This is the driveway I mentioned to the east. And this,
Jason, sorry.
Could you do it to
Point
that?
on that
Could you?
one.
Yeah, it's a little hard for us to see this side.
oh, it doesn't show up?
Yeah.
Just point over your shoulder there, so, yep, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So this is the
Yeah.
driveway on the east, and this extends to the south. I believe that might,
So my
I believe
understanding
that
from-
might actually be there. See, it's this will continue further south and access the VA offices. The driveway to the south, which would be here, is supposed to eventually access 34th Street.
Bingo, yeah. So you're using the term eventually in your presentation. Do you know if, I guess, if it's not currently planned to extend that driveway to Southwest 34th Street, is that something that we could?
I think it might be planned. I think there's a
Okay,
master
that was the
plan
question,
for it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they might have a.
Sorry, Jason. That road is already constructed and connects today.
Okay, yeah. So the word eventually was being thrown around, so I didn't know. Okay, I didn't want there to be just like one point of entrance and exit when it first opens.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, seeing none. I think you mentioned, Mr. Simmons, that the applicant has a presentation. If they would like to present, they can. You can also choose not to if you don't want to. I mean, it's
I will.
really up to you.
Hint taken. My name is Craig Brazier, AICP professional planner with NV5. I was sworn in at the beginning of the meeting. Do also want to point out, in case you do have any questions, that we have Travis Hasty and Nicola Coop from NV5 as well, who are professional engineers who worked on the development plan. But yes, we feel that everything is consistent with both the comp plan, the land development code, and the SUP requirements, as well as the design requirements. And if there's any questions or comments, I can show you visually how we meet all those. But at this point, we would just be looking for your final approval on both applications.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Murmur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so my big concern is no longer there now that I know that driveway already exists. I have one minor and sort of temporary concern. So when a Wawa opens, and I've been around when a lot of Wawas opened here and elsewhere, it can be very chaotic at first. Like the first couple of months, or typically like the first month, people are getting used to it being there. It's very popular, and it can create traffic issues. Do you know if the applicant has any plans to do anything to, in that first month in particular, when traffic's going to be really high and kind of confusing, to sort of ensure that we don't get any backups or unnecessary and unreasonable backups onto Williston?
I mean, I think it's they would. I don't know that anything specific is planned at this time. It'd definitely be taken into consideration, because obviously the goal is to move as many people safely in and out of there for the good of the business. So I think if that kind of demand dictates it, they would definitely consider bringing in some traffic control assistance.
Okay, yeah. So then I would just consider, like, I would just throw that out there as like, it might be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because of how close it is to I-75.
Sure.
That's what's making me a little nervous, just for that first month when things are crazy.
Which, it's one of those things that makes it the perfect spot for the site, but it also,
Oh yeah, and it's only a temporary thing. Like once people get used to it, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But that first month is
But point taken, and we'll pass that along.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. If any members of the public would like to comment on this particular item, you'd have 3 minutes to do so.
Just wanted to ask 2 questions that disguise suggestions. I wonder if their site plan permits the use of making some of the paved areas pervious material instead of solid concrete. And what you see around Gainesville recently is in some parking areas, the access lane between rows of parking stalls is standard solid pavement, but the parking stalls themselves are pervious material, lattice work, brick, or partially sealed gravel. And this other idea is about lighting. Will this site take advantage of dark sky lighting technology?
Thank you.
Or will you be able to see it from space?
I guess that's a question for you.
I would say so with the development plans, photometric plans were submitted. The city has a pretty stringent requirement for cutoffs fixtures, which kind of helps. It goes to that night sky goal. It tries to stop any direct exposure from bulbs, which really does cut down on obstructive light. So yeah, we're consistent with the code, and your code is very good at already kind of addressing that.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Of course, we want gas stations to be well lit at night, but yeah, we don't want them to be seen from space, so.
And the important thing about the cutoff fixtures and the city's code is that it is to put light in the right place. So
Right.
definitely the light down to make it safe. We definitely want, there again, the business wants their patrons to feel safe, so they keep coming back. So we are compatible.
This question about the pervious materials for, if I heard that correctly, pervious materials for the parking stalls.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately with this site, we have a good size, and the basin, if you noticed in some of the aerials, that's a master basin that's serving more than just this use. So the coffee shop to the east and the car wash that's already there are also being served by this basin. So we have a good bit of space to handle that runoff and to adequately treat it before going back into the ground.
Mr. Adelson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just wanted to add, I guess, a little bit of, I don't know, color, for lack of a better word, for what we're working on here. So, you all, as the plan board, do see special use permit requests, which of course are based off of basically a use.
Right.
And then also, sometimes, like in this case, you get a use request that's also associated with a development plan. And so in that case, you all as the board are looking at both, does this use make sense? And then also, does this development plan match with what, our code and land development, our comprehensive plan, our land development code matches up with and asks. So again, just to kind of touch on two of the things that were already talked about and asked about are very relevant and pertinent. The connections, which yes, our comp plan and our land development code requires,
Right.
and then also encourages in the future those connections. And the dark sky language does encourage, again, actually requires the cutoffs, as Mr. Brazier pointed out, are very specific foot candle requirements on our site plans. And then also where our comp plan tries to direct this type of development is closer to the interstate, of course, and interstate exchanges, which are very well lit and you can see from space. So, tying all of those in together from what you've seen from Mr. Simmons is, yes, it meets the criteria of both the special use and the special use permit with the major development plan as staff's recommendation.
Right. My guess is that an area that has a Publix, McDonald's, 2 additional gas stations is probably a lost cause for any kind of real dark sky concerns. So, yeah, it's a very well-developed area. And I know the board at times has been reluctant to approve gas stations, but this is actually a location that does make a lot of sense for that kind of application.
A lot of sandwiches.
Both.
It'd be cool when it was
But yeah.
breeze with it.
Right. If I think we were still at public comment after all that. So if any members of if anybody else from the public wants to speak on this, you have 3 minutes to talk.
Hello, I'm Nick Gallo of Gallo Car Wash. Myself speaking for the business, we totally approve of the development. We were aware when we even began pursuing to develop in this area there may be a gas use. We've found from previous developments we've done in the villages that especially once you get a Wawa, that's the perfect synergy. We've been looking forward to it now for 5 years. And then on a personal level, I live over at Celebration Point. That Wawa is busy from 7 a.m. to like 9 p.m. The Wawa over on Archer, my best friend lives at the Bartrams, is always busy from 7 to 9. The one on 13th by our 13th store is busy. And I think another one would be very helpful and hopefully freeing up some pumps during like normal hours. And then we also love having them as a tenant because Wawa in particular is especially clean, and it's just the perfect partner, and they have delicious food. So as a family, we're in support of it, and it's very synergistic with our business, and the proximity to the highway with knowing a coffee and a gas station may eventually come was the appeal, and we're glad to hopefully see that fulfilled tonight. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. If anybody else would like to speak on this, otherwise we will bring it back to the board for discussion and motion and a vote. Seeing none, let's bring it back to us. Anybody got anything, any other thoughts or emotion or?
Move to approve petition LD 25000042. We have to do these separately.
Do we have to do these separately? These have been presented as a joint thing. Do you want, should we break these?
Yeah,
It's just
so
one item,
you
right? So we can
can do it together. You just want to say both petition numbers, and I would say approve special use permit with development plan.
Oh yeah, so move to approve special use permit and development plan petitions LD 25000042 and development review plan LD 25000041 based on staff's recommendation and excellent report.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
And that's approved. It passed. Sorry, I was going to do the count in my head with the nay, but yeah. Motion passes. Can you read, Ms. McMullen, can you read the next item of the agenda into the record, please?
All right, next item, 2025-998, 800 block East University Ave, land use amendment, LD 25000143.
Look different, Ari.
Yeah. Looking good, Ari.
Hi, good evening. Ari Rabinovich. Feels familiar that I've done this before. Good afternoon, Chair and Board. Nate Chan, presenting on behalf of Ari Rabinovich. This is the land use change for the 800 block of East University Avenue, LD 25-000143. Ari gave me some notes, so I'll try to get into that. So the property is located on the 800 block of East University Avenue and has 2 parcels as part of this land use change petition. It's approximately 0.64 acres in size and has current land use on the left side of the property, or the left parcel. It is planned use district, and the right side, the second parcel, has mixed use low intensity. And the proposed land use today is mixed use office residential. The applicant is EDA on this property. He also had me written some other notes. Let me see if I got everything for that. The planned use district land use designation corresponded to a planned development ordinance which existed to enable the restoration and rehabilitation of the former bed and breakfast use and allowed uses consistent with those enabled by the former O2 or general office zoning designation. Okay. The requested designation of MOR would introduce residential uses to the site and would establish a range of allowable uses and development consistent with the surrounding area, which is a mix of uses including offices, residential, retail, commercial, and civic on University Avenue. Here is a map indicating the current land uses for the subject parcels compared to the surrounding area. So you can see that there's the planned use district. It's kind of small, but that's on the left side, and the mixed use office residential. That's the second parcel. This area is largely mixed use office residential here in the blue, and urban mixed use on to the east. And there you have it. So here is the proposed future land use map for the subject property, indicating the requested designation of mixed-use office residential for both parcels. Looking at the surrounding uses, to the north is a parcel with a mix of uses, including retail stores, offices, and residential. To the south are multifamily homes, and to the east and west are single-family residences. Each parcel is designated mixed-use office residential. Forgot to click for that, but there you have that. Here is a map indicating the subject parcels lie within an area that is comprised largely of mixed-use office residential, as I said, totaling approximately 73 acres mixed-use office residential. So this is a cluster of mixed uses north and south of University before it meets Waldo Road to the east. Looking slightly closer at the plan development ordinance, as I mentioned, this is a designation that existed to restore the bed and breakfast uses at the historic Victorian houses on the property. Today, the property lies within the Southeast Historic District and include one contributing historic structure, which is the McCreary House. The allowable uses per the PD were those consistent with the former general office designation. Factors like setbacks and parking were determined by the requirements of that former use category. Further, regarding historic preservation, the historic preservation officer provided feedback on this project, commenting that land uses which would allow for additional infill that adds to the character of the district is appropriate. Additionally, any new development that occurs within any historic district is subject to review for a certification of appropriateness, or COA, per section 30-4.28 of the Land Development Code, regulating things like design standards and relation to the surrounding area. Staff are required to review land use amendments against a set of criteria defined by the Land Development Code. Staff have conducted this review and concluded that these criteria are met, including consistency with the comprehensive goals, policies, and objectives surrounding diversity of housing, retail and workplace choices, encouraging a mix of uses, and discouraging sprawl toward the periphery of the city. Also, compatibility with the surrounding land uses. This project enables a diverse range of uses consistent with what exists in the area today, mixed-use office residential. And impacts on affordable housing. This project enables residential uses at the site, which is currently prohibited under the Plan Development and PUD designation today. So there may be impacts to affordable housing, and then this change would allow housing at the site. With that, staff recommends approval of LD 25-000143, and the rezoning presentation is after this. I'm here for any questions, and the applicant should be here as well.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from the board for Mr. Chan? Seeing none, does the applicant have a presentation, or? Again, I extend the same courtesy. If you want to present it, you certainly can. If you choose not to, we won't hold it against you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, Clay Swagger. I don't have a presentation for you, but essentially this property's got an old expired PD zoning on the property, so there's really no permitted uses allowed. Allowing this land use change to MOR and the zoning to U4 will essentially bring sort of the more traditional districts back to these properties, which you see in almost every direction. So it's very compatible with the pattern of the area, and ironically, it'll allow this property to be used as a bed and breakfast, which is what the PD used to allow. That's now expired. Right. So this is a real in the weeds planner cleanup application here. But the great news is it's going to allow this property owner to restore this beautiful Victorian home and bring it back to its prior glory. So I think it should be a really great end result.
Right. It's I'm not too far from there, so I've seen it. I've seen them doing work on it. It seems like it's a pretty active project right now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and they're working with the city, of course, and the historic preservation planner to make sure everything's done properly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there are any members of the public who would like to speak on this particular item, the floor is yours for 3 minutes. And if anybody wants a cookie, there's cookies going around there. The board has tasted them. They're pretty good. I'm guessing that the choosing cookie over public comment means that nobody wants to speak on this item, so we'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Nay.
I just want to thank Nate. What a great presentation, and the cookies were delicious too.
Thank you for that. Anybody else with comments, a motion?
That sounds useful.
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve LD 25143, Block E, University Avenue, land use amendment.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Ms. McMullen, if you'd like to read the next related item into the agenda, please.
Yes, item 2025-997, 800 Block East University Ave, rezoning LD 25000141.
Hi, good evening, Chair Sanchez, members of the Plan Board, Nate Chan or Ari Rabinovich. This is the rezoning companion item for the 800 block of East University Avenue, LD 25-000141. So it is the same subject property. I'll just go over the rezoning portion of this. So you heard me mention that previously the property, the PD, was sort of modeled after the general office or O2 zoning district. So some of the uses as part of that include the bed and breakfast use and other things as part of that PD. So the subject property and the petition before you today is to change the PD zoning on the property currently to Urban 4. And Urban 4, as I mentioned in a previous presentation, includes a mix of non-residential uses as well as residential to the site. So here's that map showing the current PD zoning on the property and the surrounding adjacent parcels. Here's the proposed zoning district, so going from PD to Urban 4. Looking at the surrounding uses, to the north is a parcel with a mix of uses, including retail. Generally speaking, the properties surrounding this have Urban 4 zoning, except for the south, which is Urban 3. Here is a map of the sort of broader area, which is largely comprised of either Urban 3 or Urban 4 zoning, totaling 73 acres, according to Ari's analysis. So this is a cluster of mixed uses north and south of University before it meets Walder Road. And this is sort of the same information about the historic property and being within the Southeast Historic District. I'll skip over that and go towards the transit zone sort of comparison. So the requested designation of Urban 4 establishes development and design standards for our transit zones. So here on the slide, all of our transit zones have a sort of description found in the Land Development Code. So that's what you're seeing at the top there. Urban 4 allows, as I said, a mix of residential and non-residential uses. And it also specifically has more design standards sort of outlined in the Land Development Code. Here is a sort of brief table comparison between the Urban 4 requested zoning district and the general office zoning district, of which the PD is modeled after. So comparing those two, we see that there are some outdated standards around things like setbacks, where the O2 zoning district would require setbacks be established relative to the angle of light obstruction on the neighboring properties. Also disallowed in O2 were residential uses. So this request, again, would introduce residential uses and modernize the code requirements to meet the design and development standards set by our transit zone, which is especially important considering this is on East University Avenue. Like land use amendments, rezoning requests are required to be considered against a set of criteria defined by the Land Development Code. Staff have reviewed these and found that this request is consistent with the code, including compatibility with surrounding development, any changes to the character of the area to warrant the requested change, and the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, specifically those surrounding the encouragement of a diverse set of housing types, office, retail, and workplace choices, as well as the discouragement of sprawl through infill development. With that, staff recommends approval of LD 25-000141. Thank you for your time. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Anybody on the board have questions for Mr. Chan on this? Assume not, because we didn't really have a whole lot of questions for the last one. So, if any member of the public would like to speak on this particular item, floor would be yours for 3 minutes. And seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion and a vote.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Yes, motion to approve LD 25-141 block East University rezoning, 800 block East University rezoning.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We've got one last item, believe it or not, to be read into the record.
It's a small item.
It's just a little item, right? Yeah. Item number 10, if you could read that in, please.
All right, yes, so this is a discussion item, but, so it's 2025-999, Imagine GNV Comprehensive Plan Update, with staff here to give you an update. I guess there wasn't really a way to show it on the agenda, it's just a discussion item. We should have potentially noted it as that, but we're not asking for a vote on that tonight. But you'll hear more from, Mr. Chan, and we can answer any questions as well.
Great.
Excellent.
I don't even know why you go back to sit. You just keep coming back and forth. You might as well just stay on deck or just sit out front. Check them out.
Good evening, members of the plan board. Nate Chan, lead on the comprehensive plan update, Imagine GNV. So I recognize it's been a little bit since you have likely seen the comprehensive plan update. I looked back on my notes and found that our last update to you was in December of last year, and that was following the commission's direction in September of 2024 to direct staff to create a more traditional comprehensive plan. And so, as you may be familiar with, Imagine GNV has taken lots of iterations over the past 4 or 5 years, certainly since I've started. But today we're going over some of the latest updates that I have to present to you. Planning Manager Brittany McMullen did send you an email earlier in November with our latest draft and some information on that. All of that is now available online for you to review, and I believe that's been sent to you over, and we've got some feedback from you all already, so I have that in a folder waiting for me to go over during the holiday break. So I'm excited to dig into that, and I wanted to give you an update on what we've done since both our last update to you all, but also at the City Commission level. So for a majority of this year, we've spent a lot of time trying to sort of mesh all of the ideas that have come before us, both as part of the planning process as Imagine GNV first started, and also kind of combining what the current request is, which is for a more traditional comprehensive plan. So through a lot of meetings with departments throughout the city who have more specific control over their specific elements or chapters of the comp plan, we were able to devise a sort of combination of the two. So what you're seeing today is a a more traditional comprehensive plan. So previously, I think some plan board members had mentioned, and on the staff side, we had heard that having more detailed policies and part of an appendix was somewhat problematic. So all of that, or we have tried to move all of that over to the main body of the draft. So you may have seen that since then, but otherwise we're trying to keep the comprehensive plan more reader friendly. So we have introduced and kept the narrative portions that were part of the first Imagine GNV. If you look at our comprehensive plan today, it sort of just dives into the goals, objectives, and policies without that added context that might be helpful for some folks. So we're keeping a narrative element to it. So you'll see introductions. Why is it important to plan like this? What does this all mean as part of the comp plan draft that's online? Additionally, we've taken it back from what you may be familiar with before as outcomes and strategies and indicators. The format of Imagine GNV today is just the goals, objectives, and policies. It's taken a little bit of time for us to reconfigure what was proposed previously into the goals, objectives, and policies. So taking some of that language and moving it over has been work in progress. So I definitely appreciate your feedback if you see anything that you would like added. Or see anything sort of outlying, please bring it to our attention. Other than that, so what you're seeing on the screen today is the timeline that was developed. So our latest presentation to the commission was on their November 13th General Policy Committee meeting, where they met and looked at the latest draft. And we, after that meeting, a week later, presented a timeline and posted the draft online. So anyone from the public can look at the draft online. It's using our software that we had used previously, Conveyo, to receive comments on the plan. So anyone can go in, drop a comment. Hey, I love this. What did you plan for? And that is available for everyone. At their December 11th meeting, we solicited feedback from you all and the City Commission about the comprehensive plan draft as it is. So we're circulating information, getting comments, and definitely looking at over those over the winter break. So recognize that this is a very large item for you all to look at today. So I definitely welcome your feedback if you have it. Like I said, I'd already received a couple members' feedback already, so I'm ready to dig into that. Otherwise, our schedule that we had put together is rather ambitious, I admit, and the City Commission also, I believe, recognizes that it is rather ambitious, but we're trying to stick to this as best as possible, and definitely welcome and open the floor to you all. I am available for questions if you have any. I think that's it.
Great. It's a good thing we're all very fresh, so it should make for a very lively discussion. Mr. Adelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to add. Of course, Mr. Chan has been leading and coordinating the CATs, if you will. Of course, this process is not just the planning department that's working on this. It's been across all of our departments, and then of course the commission, the community, and the feedback. To reiterate, now is the time again. So for this board, now is the time. Provide your feedback either individually to Mr. Chan or to Ms. McMullen or myself. If you want to discuss that tonight openly and in the public about what your ideas are and get feedback from the other board members, now is the time. But if you, again, would like to submit that to us, now is the time. For citizens, for people in the community, now is the time. Give your feedback to it. The commissioners right now are giving us their feedback. Now is the time. They've been gracious enough to allow the planning staff to give the commission a deadline on this. And what the planning staff has said to the commission is, now is the time. Give us your feedback for it. So
I sense a theme here.
I want to reiterate that now is the time. And really, We are taking all of that feedback, taking all of that input, of course, across both the city commission, the plan board, our advisory boards, our neighborhood associations, and all of our departments and divisions, and we're synthesizing that, and we're putting it into a document that now what our commission has asked us for is, what are people saying? Put it into something we can really understand, and then give us a crosswalk between what exists today and where are you going? What are you proposing? And how did you get there? So that is what we're working on right now. We are putting those documents together, both in the comp plan itself, but then a crosswalk document, but then also to be able to connect and coordinate and communicate with you all and our boards for why did we change anything at all? Or if we didn't change it, why did we not change it? Same thing. So again, now is the time. Thank you.
Okay. I think your time is now, Mr. Hill.
Yeah, thank you for that. I actually provided my comments in strike through an underlined format for staff. It was brought to the policy meeting. So I'm not going to go over those in detail, but this is my first shot at the data analysis. And so I think I mentioned to you all before, this is something that I do every day at work. I mostly work with comprehensive plans, so I say this not as someone who does this all the time, but someone who's been punished by the state many, many times for not doing what you're supposed to do. And so that's where these comments come from. So just a few items on the comp plan I would just ask you to consider. In your housing element, there was no current cost burden. I only saw projected. I'm sorry, that's not true. I did see current. That was an old note. One is the cost burden infographic on page 24 seems a bit off. It seems to be, I wasn't able to recreate the numbers that you all were showing. It might be a vintage problem, but it might just be, I think you're reversing severely cost burden because we're showing everyone's severely cost burden in a normal amount from what I've seen, more so than renters, which is not in my experience. So just something to look into. There was no mention of seasonal population. Projecting seasonal population is required by Florida statutes, so just something to keep in mind. The transportation element, which I know is in progress, the data analysis, although the maps looks like they have been mostly completed, there are 2 maps that are missing, or at least 2 maps. One of them is the projected level of service. We didn't show projections, just existing. And then the future transportation system is also another required map by Florida statutes. Another thing I just wanted to note, different elements are showing different projections for different years, just in the sense of the housing element provides projections to 2050, while the infrastructure section provides projections all the way to 2045. So just for consistency's sake, I think your planning horizon is 10 years, but we should just be aligning those dates. And then last comment I should make is just, I continue to be worried about, because we're getting feedback on our end doing these things, about Senate Bill 180, which I know staff is already very familiar with. If we send this in just a repeal and replace format instead of strike through and underline, the state is going to ask for proof that we didn't add any more restrictions. So we're basically going to have to show our work a little bit. So that's just my only recommendation is, be cognizant of Senate Bill 180 if you're doing repeal and replace. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Ms. Sutton.
Yeah. So following up on Forrest and what you had to say with the work that you're all doing diligently right now, when do you imagine those drafts incorporating the feedback and having kind of the crosswalk between the documents are going to be available? Do you imagine those are going up to the meeting in January? Because I'm thinking this is extremely ambitious and that we should probably schedule at least one workshop meeting to walk through kind of category by category without having a bunch of other items on our agendas like we will in January and February. So if that document isn't going to be ready until January, there's not much benefit in having a workshop, earlier in January. But I'd like for us to maybe think about doing one earlier in February before we're just expected to adopt the comp plan.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, so yes, again, the time is now. So it is an ambitious timeline. We do have the documents that are available on our website right now. Please provide your comments for those documents as they are to date as available. We are providing both our advice and expert analysis on those documents and what we've produced, and we're trying to collect and coordinate the advice from other bodies, this body, neighborhood associations, and others for the documents as they are currently, today. So please provide that advice that you have for what we have and what we have on our website and the documents as they are to date. This timeline that's being presented are the next steps for commenting on providing that advice and opinions for the documents as they are in January 22nd, February, March, April, and May going forward. So it's really an intent to try to provide multiple points to interject and intercede. For the workshop, this is one of those. This is the workshop. For another workshop, what what forum that may look like, or what forum either planning or the city management or otherwise are going to be looking towards. We'll keep talking about that, but that is valid and helpful advice for what both our city management and then our commission would lead us to as staff for what sort of other community engagement or workshops might be needed.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you're asking all of us to read this 200-page document on our own time and provide you feedback, and I think some of us have. My question is, I think that we should probably have a format when there's a presentation that we go topic by topic, and I think there's something to be gained about having a discussion and letting the community know that these topics are going to be being addressed. And kind of giving us that high-level overview of this is what's changing significantly between the old comp plan and this one. There's I think, only two of us sitting up here who have been through a comp plan before on the board. And so, and I know Nick does this for work all the time. He's super familiar with comp plans, but the remainder of the plan board members probably don't really fully 100% understand the process and the purpose and the old one versus the new one. Because even in my work, I look at comp plans every day, right? The average person on the street doesn't do that. The average board member doesn't even do that. So I think that it's somewhat important that you all present this in some way, shape, or form at some date prior to just saying, here's our final version, vote yes or no. I think it would be helpful for staff to walk through it topic by topic a little bit. And when we started this process, and I'm going to go back to like COVID Zoom plan board meetings, we did go through the changes. When the initial drafts were put together with HR&A, we went through topic by topic, and we had workshop meetings that covered, 3 topics at a time, and we met for 2 or 3 hours and really delved into them. I understand we don't have the time for that here, but we can afford a little bit of discussion and overview from staff, just education-wise to the board members on what you're voting on and what's significant about it. I don't think it's fair to expect to just email us a 200-page document with updates twice and just, not have any kind of presentation or formal process or real discussion. I mean, everyone can give you their independent thoughts, but I think going topic by topic is really important, whatever shape that takes.
Yeah, I think we, point well taken. I think we did want to do that in as much as possible before February. So, if you would like to schedule a workshop, I'm sure we could do, arrange that.
Because when we went through these topics in COVID via Zoom, only 2 of us, I think, were on those meetings, and now you're asking all the other members who are newer to this, who don't really necessarily, they weren't a part of when we started this whole thing, and now we're kind of backtracking and going, it is confusing, and I think it's important that we get more of a presentation about that and what's required by the state for a comp plan. Nick knows it, you know, in his sleep. But most people don't, right? So, you know, why, I think there needs to be a little bit of an educational element here.
So I think that's really good advice, and that certainly for staff, we'll take that and run with that. And then that's also something, of course, here today that our commission is looking at and others that are watching this. We'll move forward with that. It again, I know it's almost a joke now, but it is the time. We're getting feedback directly from commissioners that are editing the draft right now, reading all 200 pages and giving that. Obviously, ultimately, our bosses are the commission. We're getting direct feedback from community groups that are editing specific chapters. We're getting direct feedback from plan board members who are working on specific chapters right now without the workshops, you know, additional meetings, etc. I think that that's very good advice. And I think that if that is something that the other groups, the other bodies that are interested in, that are working on this, that are also providing their feedback, including the, you know, the contracted companies that are doing the feedback on our comp plan, EDA included, are acting and actively giving us updates and drafts and verbiage right now on what we've produced. So now is the time.
Dr. Murmur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to say quite a few things. Surprise. First, I want to echo what Member Sutton just said. I personally, I hadn't considered a workshop, but I was originally going to suggest seeing if, like, we could set a sunshine meeting where anyone who's want to come from the plan board can come so we can hash this out. Because I think that discussion aspect, going, you know, objective by objective and some of the policies, piece by piece, I would certainly benefit from, like, the collective wisdom.
I think the whole board would.
Yeah.
I mean, I think giving individual feedback is fine, but you see how we are. Like, and it's a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier to have. You've got some experienced board members. I'm sorry to step I chose, but I think this is what you're saying. We got some experienced people here that can share knowledge. We come at it from a different perspective, and they do, and I think it helps ultimately city staff. Instead of getting 7 different people peppering you with 7 different things, we can probably get a more focused, more focused voice. You guys have a lot of cooks on this thing. You got some of them in the crowd right now. You know what I mean? You got us up here. Anyway, the commission. I think any way we can cut down the number of cooks and have consensus ahead of time, I think is a good thing, ultimately for you guys.
Yes. So I just want to echo that. I'm hoping, so I Member Sutton, you suggested that maybe doing it in February because we don't expect the final product or the final draft to be ready prior to the January 22nd. Or not, sorry.
I know they're getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
So one of my questions was, when is kind of an updated draft going to be available? Because it may be worth you, like, investing more time at that point in walking us through the changes made.
Yes, I can answer that. So the updated draft, incorporating the commission feedback that we're getting now, and community feedback and board member feedback, that will be presented on January 22nd. So that'll be the point where we can, I think, move forward with a revised draft.
And I guess I mean, this is really like a community visioning document. And so I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how you put a community visioning document together by gathering 100 people's individual feedback and then crunching it in one person's office. So, like, if you get feedback from 2 commissioners in direct conflict with each other, or plan board members collectively disagree with what the commissioner has given you in markups, how are you gonna make sense of that? Like, are you, on the 22nd, are you bringing us, like, this is what we heard, but there's these 2 directions, help us decide? Or is it, you know, we looked at this and we had to pick a path and this is our current draft? I guess I'm trying to understand how your process is working.
Yes.
You're getting 100 different comments from different people, but it's somewhat in isolation. It's not a community conversation.
The answer
You're not
is
building
yes.
consensus.
So our commission and certainly our city manager has given us a direction as staff to move forward with the product. For us as professional planners, to make that product good, a good product is to listen and take the feedback as much as we are able to from you all. And again, that's what we are trying to do up to the 22nd. And of course, we've been doing it, but we will also do it for these other timelines. But this 22nd is the next major inflection point. So for us as staff, our main bosses are the commission. Our really main boss is the city manager, of course. We listen to all 8 of those bosses. But as a part of our professional planning and professional expertise is to listen to you all, incorporate that, and then now we got to take it to our bosses.
Sorry, is it still my turn? Technically.
I mean, yeah, I
Sorry.
guess so, yeah.
So first of all, I just want to interject there because I'm pretty sure the comprehensive planning part, I think city plan board feedback and comprehensive plan prior to it being forwarded to the city commission, isn't that in the city code? I thought that there was part of our code of ordinances that actually.
Yeah, so that is what will, it's happening throughout the entire process, but yeah, you're correct. The plan board does review and approve as the local planning agency as designated by the state, the comprehensive plan, and then it goes on to the city commission.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear. I'm not sure if this is what Mr. Eggleton was saying, but it could have been interpreted, and this might just be, full disclosure, I had not a great week and I'm very tired. But it could have been interpreted as the city commission directed us to basically circumvent the plan board, so we did, which I think would be in violation of state statute and city code.
I think ultimately the problem is, I know you're in the time crack at this point, but ultimately you require approval by the city plan board as a recommendation to this document. And it's going to be very, very useful for you if we actually understand what you've done in a comprehensive way. And I don't think that's what you're planning to do.
And to that point, that's why I think a workshop would be, or, I remember something that brought up the workshop, and I will also go on record saying that I agree with Mr. Ackerman, which is,
It happens.
But if the final product that we're supposed to be reviewing and giving comments on is not going to be ready until the 22nd or shortly thereabouts, and then 22nd of January, then we have basically just a month and a couple days to then hold a workshop and provide feedback prior to the adoption hearing. Like, I just feel like I'm being kind of put in a corner here.
Forrest, what's your drop dead date to transmit to the state?
Drop dead date.
My understanding was you could submit.
It says it's due May 1st. I don't know if that's true.
What's your ultimate requirement to meet their requirements?
We're aiming for this deadline that we're showing right now. Are there other things, other processes that the city could do absent or, after that? Yes, absolutely. So drop dead, we're aiming for May. Can we do more after May? Yes, we can.
So, I guess ultimately on the workshop thing, if it is possible to get something near a complete draft of what we're expected to receive on the 22nd, do you think that could be done and we can have a workshop before the 22nd? Because I would benefit.
I would say yes. I want to try to reiterate that waiting for a final draft and then giving feedback is not what the commission has asked staff or the advisory boards to do.
It also won't be final because we're giving feedback. So then
Yeah, I know, as close as possible though, and I see what you're saying, and I do plan to submit individual comments as well. Maybe I should have started there, because one of One of my other questions was, I was hoping to have all my comments ready by this afternoon, and now it's looking like I won't have them all ready until next Wednesday. Will that be okay, Mr. Chan? If I submit them to you by close of business Wednesday?
Christmas Eve? Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to clarify a few things that have been said. I definitely hear your desire for a workshop, and we can definitely look at putting something together, because something of that nature will also need to be given to the city commission when we present to them. So we'll look at putting something together, and I have a couple drafts already of some summaries of the different chapters, what they're aiming to do, and that's also kind of baked into the new draft as it is. So the narratives are trying to help ease into all of the goals, objectives, and policies, which are very big and broad and are, oftentimes hard for folks to understand. So we can try to work through the details of that. So to your more immediate question, feel free to submit feedback as you see fit. I'm a repository for all of that. Got a big folder already of 200-page documents of the comp plan of each person's feedback. So,
and if I can get it to you before, then I absolutely will. It's just I'm having to reference a lot of things, do a lot of independent research, largely because we didn't get a presentation and sort of learn this on my own, which isn't your fault, which leads me to what was going to be the last thing I was going to say, which was I know that because there was this unique, experimental format for the comprehensive plan, and now you have to move all that into this new, more traditional format while still trying to maintain what was good and useful from the old format. I understand that. I want you to know that I'm not blaming you, Mr. Chan, at all. And this is a Herculean task to just deal with the formatting and keep everything, keep the spirit of everything as is. So, I think you've done a great job. So I am going to have a lot of comments. But yeah, this was this weird thing, this weird way of having a comp plan and then going back to the traditional way. I know that's a lot, so I personally really appreciate all the work you've put into this, and also having to go to all the different city departments and stuff. I know it ain't easy, so thank you.
Minor housekeeping note. I think we have to have a motion to extend this meeting if it goes past 10, right?
Move to extend this meeting till 10:30, and we can extend it again.
Yeah, you want to just add a half hour? Sure. Second on the motion to extend?
Second.
Okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. I'm sorry to me to step on your toes there, Dr. Mermer. I just realized we were up against a procedural thing. Are you done, or do you have more? Or?
No, I had some more. I just wanted to, because I wanted to make it clear that, yes, I understand that your planning department's looking for feedback. Feedback is forthcoming, just making that clear. Individual feedback, but I still want to insist on a workshop as soon as possible. Finally, broad things that I wanted to suggest and sort of get Mr. Chan's reaction on, and I'm just going to name 4 of them. There's a lot in chapter 2, there is a lot of references to working with community groups, community organizations. I think there's stuff like other Alachua County, City of Alachua, UF Santa Fe. And I know at the commission meeting or general policy committee meeting when the city commission discussed this, Commissioner Chestnut had mentioned wanting to see stronger language in terms of ensuring that low-income folks and residents are being focused on. So one idea that I had is basically in chapter 2, wherever there's mention of a community organization, of a government, another government, or of an educational institution, also including explicit mention of including community resource centers and community resource navigators. So that way, committing the city to work with the CRCs and the community resource navigators, because that's going to be your best way to actually reach low-income folks and be able to bring them into the fold and into the process. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. We can add that in.
The other one is in the intergovernmental stuff. There's a lot of talk about city leadership and staff. How is that defined? I was missing the definition. I couldn't find one in the like. Who's considered city staff? Who's considered city leadership? Is it elected?
I'm not sure if there's a like strict definition we're holding to, but to that point about being more stringent in how we use language throughout the plan, it's something that has come up as multiple authors. I think as was mentioned, multiple cooks, if you all are using different words. So if you see that, feel free to flag it, and we'll try to be concise in how we're addressing one thing or the other if there's a difference. I think there was another point earlier about how we're compiling feedback. So in addition to the draft that we're putting together for the January 22nd meeting, we are attempting to put together 2 other companion documents that would help be transparent in what we're proposing to do. So the first one is a compilation of all of the comments that have been received and looked at that next meeting. So what it'll do is it'll essentially be something similar to what we've put together previously. As the draft has gone and been added and iterated and removed some things, it'll have the comment that we had received, and then what chapter it was relevant to, and hopefully a staff response on a decision or an acknowledgement or something else. So hopefully that'll help combine all of the feedback that we've given or been given and received at all of the different venues. Secondly, the other document that we're trying to put together is one that is trying to compare the current comprehensive plan, goals, objectives, and policies, and what is being proposed. So something I think that Nick had mentioned and some other members of the public and our community have mentioned is trying to see what has changed word for word, if there is any sort of connection at all. So essentially what it is a giant track changes, I think is what you were mentioned. And trying to reverse engineer that is a little bit difficult. So we're going to try our best to do that. And you will see what that looks like. Hopefully it's good.
Thank you. So sorry, I'm not.
Keep
I know
going,
this is
please,
taking me a
yes.
long time, but it's because I keep getting interrupted. All right. So yeah, okay, that's really useful information. I was assuming, like I thought, my best guess was that leadership meant the city commission. That was shorthand for that, and staff meant executive level staff, like department head and higher. In which case, you're going to see some comments from me about trying to make sure that, because we have 4 collective bargaining units in the city, 5 technically collective bargaining units in the city, and there's not one mention in the interdepartmental and inter-city stuff mention about working with the unions. So I think it's going to be important to mention that explicitly, seeing as we do have 5 different bargaining units. And 2 more things, and that's it. There's stuff in here about seeking feedback from neighbors and planning and policy development. But there's nothing about seeking feedback from neighbors and relevant projects. I'll give you the example. Santa Fe Blount Center, right? It's like continue to work with Santa Fe College on implementing this policy. And there was mention about how neighbors in Pleasant Street and Fifth Avenue neighborhoods had provided feedback for the plan, but I'm going to suggest, and I want your thoughts on this, also making sure that the neighbors and nearby residents have a way to participate in the implementation. What thoughts? Is that going to be something that's going to be difficult to work in, or?
No initial thoughts right now. Like I said, feel free to make the suggestion, and just because there are so many entities involved in the planning process, it's not necessarily one, like I think it was mentioned, like my determination. But definitely make the feedback and give that to us, and I can try to see where that can fit.
Yeah. And in particular, when anything involves, not so, like Santa Fe is like the example that's sticking in my mind, but really like anything that involves UF, because that's just a common, as a community organizer, that's a common complaint in the community, that UF gets to, work with the city and the county and do whatever they want, and we're just shut out of the process. And they're not wrong. Okay, lastly, the transportation section. Just to give you a preview, there should be mention about headways in here, about service hours. There's only 2 indicators, if I recall correctly, on tracking progress for the transportation-related goals. Or the first goal that relates to public transit, and I think that that's going to require a lot more. I don't think that was your fault at all. I suspect that it came from like RTS not providing enough feedback, but yeah, I'm going to want to have a conversation, if we have a workshop, hopefully we do, about that transportation element, because it's very weak in terms of what it does for RTS. With that, I will shut the hell up.
Mr. Hill, you might have set the record for longest time with the light blinking in front of you.
No, that was all great comments. I just have just one point of clarification on the ear. It says the ear is due in May. Now, is that just the ear notification letter, or is that the ear amendments?
Notification letter.
Okay, all right. So you still have, worst case scenario, a year after the, okay.
Yeah,
Just
so
making sure.
It might be helpful to clarify for the other board members, I suppose. But yeah, essentially, the city has got to submit a letter by May addressing the required evaluation and appraisal report. Sorry, it's late. My brain is
That's fine.
on acronyms. But and then the process allows for essentially a year to submit actual changes, but we don't want it to take that long.
Right. So that's how we dropped that twice, right?
Worst case scenario,
Worst
we
case,
drag
yeah.
a 6 to 7 year process out for another year.
Okay.
And the ramifications for that, if you do not adopt it within that extra year, you can no longer pass comprehensive plan amendments as a city.
That is correct.
So that's a big deadline.
Yeah.
Can't miss that.
And I did want to just add, we did plan on coming to you and talking more about the comp plan before the February adoption date. And just to point out that January 22nd date that GPC is happening is also the date of your January plan board meeting. So we'll be talking about it all on the same day. But I do think
I'm sorry, that was Ms. Sutton's point about the workshop, just to...
yeah, no, what I was going to say is I think it'd be a good idea to have a workshop.
Yeah. We want to make sure we don't have a 10-item agenda.
Yeah.
And then it's the plan board, and then it's the comp plan, and we're all kind of like just running on fumes.
Exactly,
Trying
yeah.
to talk our way through it. So.
Wait till we're on palms, then give it to us.
Yeah. Although the cookies helped, so. Mr. Nay.
I don't know if they did help. I ate too many. With stakeholder engagement, I noticed you listed a bunch of organizations. How are you reaching out to those organizations? Are you emailing them directly? Are you having meetings with them?
Yeah, we're taking a couple of different approaches. I'm glad you caught on to that. Something I didn't mention when I first came up to talk about the plan update, but we are looking at additional stakeholder engagement as part of the process between now and our anticipated May deadline. So we've listed, obviously coordination with city staff who have more direct ties to the individual chapters and, the requirements that they're sort of imposing. Partner organizations, we're going out to different institutions and UF, Santa Fe, and of course, Gainesville Neighborhood Voices, Gainesville for People is also listed. So we're hoping to get to the next monthly meeting, hopefully, for you all. And I know Gainesville Neighborhood Voices is holding 3 different workshops in January, February, going over the chapters more in detail. So we'll be present at those to hopefully provide information, be there to answer questions, and talk through the overall plan and what that looks like. And then community first neighborhood. So that is the city's neighborhood program where there's a city staff person sort of heading the comments and concerns of that neighborhood and reaching out to different entities, whether that's there's a pothole over here, or we have trash in this one area. Can you do something about that? The Community First program is very helpful in that regard to have that direct city neighborhood involvement. So we're going out to those groups, and we've started some of that as well. I say we. Allison has gratefully helped with some of that, and she will be helping with more. So I'm very grateful for that assistance and look forward to doing more of that. But otherwise, if there are other inquiries, we've gotten a couple. We have a contact on our website for anyone that wants to schedule a meeting individually, or if you want us to attend a meeting that is already happening, whether that's a neighborhood meeting or otherwise, we're making ourselves available for those. We are also hoping to utilize some of the city's social media or email channels. So the city's newsletter has a great repository of people that are interested in city happenings. I'm not sure if they're super interested in long-range policy planning documents, but I will try my best to make sure they're hopefully intrigued for what we're visioning for the city. So we're hopefully going to engage people that way as well. If you have feedback or other people that you would like me to reach out to, let me know.
I just care about the email with Barnyard Buddies. That's my jam.
Okay.
Ms. McMullen.
You're number 2, I think. You had the. Yeah.
I already said my thing about the
Okay.
board dates and.
Oh, okay, great. Well, we'll take that back then. Ms. Sutton.
Since you mentioned dates, one change is, did we officially move the February plan board meeting? It was sent in the email that we were going to try to do it the week before that on the 19th.
Yes, that's
a good call.
I changed it in my calendar, so I plan to be here on the 19th of February.
That's what we are planning for.
Okay, so that's one minor thing. I have just kind of some broad comments on the current version of the comp plan. Generally, I think having a narrative to introduce the chapter and what it means and why it's there is great. Having a chapter from a history book is not. So I think we need to simplify some of that. I think we need to take out some of the looking backward, negative things that have happened here in the past, and make it more of a future seeking document. I think we have a lot of great things that we can incorporate and share that we've worked on even over these last 5 years. So some of the changes I think that we need to incorporate into the future land use categories are, in the same way that we mentioned in some of these categories, you can get extra height with a special use permit. We should mention you can get extra density by doing inclusionary zoning, and in certain future land use categories, that underlie U6, U7, U8, and U9, it's almost mandatory that the densities go up that high, because it's somewhat rare that we have small projects in those zoning categories. And so looking at the densities and incorporating the inclusionary housing and the increased density available, I think is really important. I think that that's something that we want to encourage and also celebrate that we have that in the code right now. I also don't know that that we're fully capturing the way that we account for ADU units, and I think we need to talk about that as well, because I think in most cases they aren't counting against the density, and I think that just needs to be more clear here, that it's sort of encouraged in that way. And so I think we need to sort of focus on some of these things that we've been working on as big initiatives. And that's one of them, kind of in future land use, talking more about the densities and the options for getting more density and more affordable housing. I also think in the wavelength of thinking about affordable housing, we need to look at some of the bigger picture infrastructure requirements, and particularly things like stormwater. And look at where we can have more flexibility for infill and redevelopment and affordable housing. It doesn't really allow much flexibility at all right now. And then broadly, so things that can reduce costs when you're doing things like affordable housing that are priorities for the city. Also, just kind of big picture, and I brought this up, years ago when we had workshops via Zoom. But I hope you're spending a little bit more time on the indicators and tying that to some of the information that's actually in the data and analysis, or trying to get that information in the data and analysis, because it would be really interesting as we move forward to know, like, this doesn't tell us where we are in these things, and it doesn't really set a goal or tell us where we want to be in these indicators either. And so I think the indicators really need to be fleshed out more. If that's how we're going to measure progress, like, let's flesh that out. Like, what does progress look like? And we have to have our starting point on those things. And so I hope all of that is in the data and analysis. And if it's not, we might need to reassess what the indicators we're listing are if we can't define a starting point for them. So I hope you're spending some time on that, but those are the types of things I can't really see until we get more. I kind of looked at the initial version that was posted for the City Commission, so if there was data and analysis in what you posted for us, I haven't reviewed that closely yet, but I'm really interested to see that come together, and I think particularly in the way that it ties to the indicators, it's really important. That we take a close look at that and we talk about how we're going to assess our progress over the term of this document. So that's my big picture thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely want to take a closer look at the indicators. I think we've received some feedback to try to move that from the main body of the draft, perhaps better closely tied to the data analysis. So that's something we're going to look at doing, and definitely agree with you that for indicators that we are listing, it would be great if we had a baseline to assess for future. Also hear your other feedback, and we'll want to take a closer look at the narratives. By virtue of it being a new part of the comp plan and all of our city staff not well versed in taking a step back from our day-to-day work to look at a broad visioning document, it was hard for us to come together to put something that made sense. So some of them look a little bit different than others. That's something we're going to address hopefully in the new draft that's going to come out soon. Having a better broad positive look at all the great things that the city has done over the past few years is a goal for ours. So we want to make sure that that's accurately reflected, and let us know if there's specifics that you'd like to see that we can include as well.
I think that building some of those things I mentioned into the future land use categories themselves, where you spell out, you can get a height bonus by a special use permit.
Right.
Like, I think it's more important that we put that you can get a density bonus by having affordable housing. That's one example. It also needs to be threaded through the housing element, clearly. That's a big story I think we have to tell. There's probably, more versions of that if you talk to different departments.
I'm going to be pettier than them because I don't know as much, but the narratives really need to be tightened up. They're some of it's just not true.
They're long. They're very long.
And that's a problem. Specifically, page 12, after the Civil War, soldiers enrolled in the University of Florida, which didn't exist until 1908.
So you're not the only person that's made that very specific comment.
It does stick out.
Am I the only one that has?
No, you are not.
Oh, no, it just jumps out at me.
You're absolutely right. I mean,
That kind of read like an AI hallucination,
There's, and that, so if there is any explanation, of course, the skeleton for a lot of this document is based off of the HRNA consultants that started this process. And that is one of the skeletons, one of the, that needs to be addressed, absolutely.
Needs to be fixed, yeah.
But yeah, it's shorter. I agree with Bob. Like tighter writing on all of them. You don't. It's a lot to get through already. You don't need to add more for people to get through. You know, if you want people to actually read it, tighter is better.
Thank you, and certainly for your comments like that, like get rid of this is wrong.
Yeah,
very helpful.
Very happy to delete things.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn for the evening.
Dr. Murray has a comment, so we'll see if we can get through, and then
I think he's going to extend
I think I'm about to expire.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question about the narratives. From the state's perspective, do the narratives matter? Are they going to do anything? I'm a little confused by narratives, if I'm being honest.
I think the state hates them, right? That's my sense, is that the state, and that the state's not a huge fan, especially of some of the content of the narratives. Certainly not with the current administration in Tallahassee.
Because, Mr. Chen, you have done a lot of work already, again, translating from the old format into the new format while trying to maintain the spirit of everything that was in the old. I'm wondering why for the state stuff, why the narratives, do they need to be there at all? Can't you have another document for public consumption that isn't submitted to the state? So the narrative stuff, I just feel bad for you. If there's one thing that maybe you shouldn't have to work on, it's these narratives. And maybe that could be put off until after May if we hit that deadline, or June or July. And then it could also be given to somebody else because you have been punished enough. Is that an idea that...
So the narratives are not required. There is a lot of purview within local jurisdictions for what their plan is and what it looks like. And the state's purview for how they or what they can review is actually spelled out in statute, and it's very limited for what they can respond to. Whether or not that they will limit themselves to that response is something else entirely. But there is statutory requirements for what they can and cannot actually review. And local jurisdictions are able to craft their own documents. We are allowed to have our elements. We are allowed to craft those elements the way that the local jurisdiction sees fit. And then sort of, yes, to your point, the state can comment on those, but there is in statute a limit to what they actually can have effect on.
Thank you for that information. So that was my more specific question, and it's not just to, so my more specific question to this board is, I think it might be worthwhile for us to request that the city commission for the official comprehensive plan document just jettison the narratives and then create a separate, user-friendly comprehensive, annotated comprehensive plan that can include the narratives just to save everybody some work. This just seems like an unnecessary thing to be working on.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that point. I think it's something, flag that to a commissioner if you haven't already, too. Because they're their boss, and they're going to have a large say in it. And if some commissioners are in love with the narratives, we're going to...
Well, I think narratives tell the story.
Yeah.
It does help.
It needs to be simplified.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm thinking for the deadline, if there's just one task we can take away.
They need to be tightly written.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am interested in having you do a little less work. It seems like I'm the only one.
One paragraph narrative. Yeah. Super tight, that's all. Okay. We're all kind of, I think, gassed. The only thing, I'll send you guys some comments. I've sent some stuff to the city commission already. The only thing I will say broadly, my big thing was just be careful how you guys word the historic preservation section. Right now, as it's written, as I saw it, it seems to incentivize the creation of new historic districts without any context or reason for that. And I will tell you, living in an historic district, it runs a direct counter to the city's goals of increasing affordable housing, because you are restricting what you can build. So just be careful about that section. Honestly, my feedback to commissioners on that section was that section is really bad. It needs to be just thrown out and rewritten, because it is if you read it right now, there's a lot of the objectives are to create new, encourage more stuff to be put in the registry, create new districts, and it's why? So that's my main comment. There's other comments I'll have. I'll send you guys that. That said, let's get out of here.
Hit that thing.
Next meeting is January 22nd, 2026, and with that, we are adjourned.